Yo, welcome back to the Jazari Qual Show. I am here today with my friend Tommy. Let me change this background. Um, yo, how are you feeling?
I'm feeling all right. You know, I felt
Mhm.
I felt a little prepared for everything.
Yeah.
And when we signed off, we kind of knew where it was going. I mean, just looking at the numbers, I knew a few hours before we even signed off that it was headed that way. And beforehand, like we talked on the show, the looking at the polls, if you look at them correctly, anything could have happened. So,
No, okay, so I just don't get it. A lot of people talk about this too, about how like there was she raised $1 billion in 3 months. She had all of the support. It seemed like everything was, kind of going in her favor.
mhm.
And then she ended up losing. I was watching a freaking I was watching a YouTube video. Oh my gosh. I was watching a YouTube video and come to find out that like they were breaking down the amount of money that she spent on different things. Like
Mm.
over $400,000 allegedly a day on the Las Vegas Sphere. Did you hear about
Uh-huh.
that?
Yeah, I saw that reported
She
too.
was on the Call Her Daddy show, and she didn't want to fly all the way to California to do the show, so they spent like six figures rebuilding a replica of that girl's set for her to come on in DC so she wouldn't have to leave DC.
Yep.
I don't know. I think the money definitely could have been spent a better way, but I don't know. What are your takeaways on how she campaigned?
I also saw that she paid Oprah like $1 million. I didn't really see where Oprah was involved or anything like that, but um, and she also paid Beyonce to be at a rally, and Beyonce didn't even perform. But I mean, it looks like they
Hold
did
on, pause
everything.
on that.
Go ahead.
You know when they were talking about the DNC, how they were going to bring out a special guest,
Uh
and
huh.
there was this hype about it was going to be Beyonce. How epic would it have been if Beyonce sung that Freedom song live? Right,
I
like
guess
as
it would have looked.
Harris was walking onto the stage. Yeah,
It would have been a nice spectacle for sure, man. But I mean, I've always kind of thought the celebrity endorsements were, a little overrated. Um, I saw one pundit, somebody I actually do like, he's a oh, what's his name? He's a Republican strategist, actually. He runs those group studies, but I can't think of his name right now. But one of his like postmortem takes was she should have done like a tour campaign, like tour with like Taylor Swift, like Taylor Swift to do a concert, and then she would do a rally. And I just thought that was one of the most wild takes. I just could not believe that was like what a professional thought should have happened differently, you know?
yeah. I don't know. I think that her campaigning with the Cheneys didn't really help her at all. Like toward the end,
Mhm.
there was that one video of where she was in that I don't know where she was in. She was in some kind of like convenience store or shop or something like that. And they were asking her, like, what do you think about getting Dick Cheney's endorsement? And she and she was like, oh yeah, yeah, like, pretty much said it was great and everything. And the lady behind her was like,
I mean, even some of my favorite, like, talking heads, people like, Kyle Clancy and Breaking Points, they couldn't figure out why she was doing that, the Cheney stuff, right? And
mm-hmm,
I think that looking at the numbers after the fact, she knew she was in trouble with youth turnout, right? And she had to try and make up votes somewhere else. So the Liz Cheney thing was like an attempt to um, appeal to like white suburbanite women. And honestly, like if you do look at the numbers, she did have an improvement with white women. That's one of the margins she improved on, but it just wasn't enough to make up for the absolute crash in youth voting turnout.
I honestly I could not believe, I've seen kind of the exit polls. It probably changed a little bit. The numbers probably changed a little bit
Mhm.
since the election's over, and more ballots are coming in and stuff, but I mean, she got like 90% of black women votes, and then like
Yeah.
what, like a little over, I don't remember what the black men votes were, but
58%.
58%.
Yeah. So in 2016, they voted like 66% for Hillary. Then
Mm,
it dropped to like 60% for Biden. And then it was pretty much the same, 2% drop off, but that's not as big of a drop off as it was from Hillary to Hillary to Biden,
mm.
So, I mean, that was one of the worst takes I saw like immediately after the election was, I mean, I saw party leadership. You saw party leadership saying black men let us down. And I was just like, what a wild take, you
Yeah,
know?
and then the more the stuff came out, it showed that like that wasn't really.
No, I
I
mean,
don't. Go ahead.
yeah, there might have been a 2% drop off, but that's not that huge. And, honestly, as a Democrat myself, like, it's not, I'm not asking the question of like, how could they not vote for us more? The thing in my head is like, how can they vote for us this much, considering, the legacy of, the recent Democratic policies, especially of the 90s and that sort of thing. But I mean, their
Mhm.
numbers were pretty much what they were for Biden, who he smashed. I mean, he smashed with the Latino voters, you
Hmm.
know, and yeah, I mean, Kamala did all. I mean, I Kamala, excuse me, Vice President Harris. Sorry, uh,
MVP.
she's the last. I mean, like, I really don't blame her for what she inherited. I
Mm-mm.
don't blame her for the things she did. I mean, she knew she was underwater with youth turnout. I mean, I now realize why she campaigned with Liz Cheney. I mean, the narratives were like ready to go. They were chambered, ready to go. The same people who are criticizing her strategies today would have been the same people who would have been praising her strategies if she had won, you
Mm.
know? So I'm like trying to stay away from that. But like, I think we were talking, maybe you were one of the people I was talking with, and I was saying like Biden can't drop. That's never going to work. And I was
Mm.
right, but I was also wrong about a few things when it came to that. But I mean, yeah, the nail in the coffin was Biden running for reelection, and I don't think anybody could have undone that. So,
So the thing is that like I guess it was an understanding. At first, I thought this is what he actually said, and then it came out that he didn't actually say this. That he was just going to be a one-term president and kind of help
hmm
usher in a new generation of leaders, and help
hmm
build like the future party up. And then said, "Oh, I'm running for reelection."
hmm
Um, and a lot of people were shook by that. But people that were saying that he's too old and all that stuff, you guys do realize that Trump is going to now be the oldest president that has been here in the
uh,
US.
so when he was running in 2020, he didn't say he wouldn't run, but he implied heavily that he's too old for it.
Mm.
He would say they'd ask him, "Would you run for a second term?" He'd be like, "I'm an old man, and the next generation and stuff." But he never took a hard position. I mean,
Mhm.
a politician, And
Right.
then, yeah, I mean, his advisors and a lot of the party elite just, you know, they just convinced him he should run again. A lot of his staffers, a lot of his advisors. Uh, James or Jim Clyburn from South Carolina. That was
Mm.
somebody who was like huge on Biden in 2020 and also was one of the people that was pushing him to run again. And you know what
Yo.
he was saying post election? He was saying,
What?
we don't need to place blame on anybody. We don't need to assign blame to anyone. It's like, yeah, because you're the one who deserves a lot of the blame.
That's what he said post-election?
Yeah, he's trying to say that we shouldn't try to figure out who to blame. We shouldn't be pointing fingers and stuff like that. And it's like, well, that's kind of rich because you're the one on the top, one of them.
Yo, somebody said Kamala's campaign did fine. Not having a primary is why folk didn't show. Don't
Mm.
overthink it.
Well, I mean, yeah, I mean, but it's not the same as the way we picked Harris was the problem. It's like why we had to pick her that way was the problem. And I know that can seem like the same thing, but after he decided to run again, and it's just tradition to not have a contested primary, all of the big name politicians will stay out. That was what did it. You know, it's reported that Pelosi and Obama really wanted there to be something called a mini primary, but that wouldn't have done it. They could have done like it wouldn't have worked. It
Right.
was it was just too late. And it's easy to say in hindsight, but I mean that's what I was saying when I was saying y'all Biden can't drop out. So I was right about that and that a change wouldn't work, but I was wrong about the end result. I mean, Harris really improved performances for down ballot Democrats. I mean, yeah, I mean, if you want to go into it, like Pod Save America revealed that when Harris took over as the nominee, she inherited pretty much the entire Biden campaign, which means she inherited the internal polling, right?
Mhm.
And the internal polling was saying that he was going to lose in a 400 electoral college landslide.
If you have it, you can throw it up on the screen.
I let's see. I mean, I just have it. Can I just let's see? I have it saved on. So how do I do that?
So, like, at the bottom, you should see, like, a share screen. Do you see
Okay.
that?
Yeah, 1 second.
And then
All right, can you see that? This is essentially what Biden's internal polling was saying was the map was going to look like if he had stayed in the race. Can you see that?
yeah.
Yeah. So New Jersey, Illinois, Minnesota, you know, that's what they were showing in their internal numbers. So let's stop sharing. So I mean, Harris got in and she stemmed the bleeding, you know. I mean, they were able to, maintain seats in pretty much every swing state except Pennsylvania. And if Biden had stayed in, that wouldn't have happened, And so that's where I got it wrong when it was like he shouldn't drop. But I also got it right that it wasn't going to work, I guess,
Mhm.
So
I do you know if the Arizona Senate race has been it's been called for
it's been
Ruben
called.
Gallego. Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
Gallego. Yeah.
I wonder what Carrie Lake is saying.
Well, I
Like,
mean, yeah, go ahead.
she was one of those who, was denying the election results back in 2020, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
was it 2020 when she
When
ran
she
for
ran for
governor?
governor, it was 2022
Yeah,
when she ran
2022, a
for
couple of
governor.
years ago.
Yeah.
And, even up until now, I guess she was also saying that it, would be rigged if she didn't win or,
Uh-huh.
just what they were saying. But it doesn't matter, I guess, at this point because the Republicans
Mm-hmm.
have all branches of government. Do you think they're going to do you think they'll get rid of the filibuster?
If Trump wants to, sure. You know, if
Yeah.
if that's what he wants to do, it'll happen. McConnell's not going to be leading anymore. That's somebody who would probably want to preserve the filibuster, but he's got caveats. If you want to be the Speaker of the House or the Senate Majority Leader, he's going to have some caveats that you have to agree to. And the
Hmm.
thing, it looks like in the House, Democrats might be netting 2 seats. They'll go from 222 Republicans will go from 222 to 220, so a
Hmm.
tighter majority. But that's not even going to be a problem this time because nobody is going to cross Trump. If he wants something, every one of those Republicans, 220, it could be up to 222 in the end. It just depends on like two really competitive races, but it won't be a big problem like it was for the previous House.
Just to go back on, black men and women on the election. I was telling you this, but over the phone the other day. But for those of you guys watching, so I've been watching a lot of like, response videos to the election. And one thing I was talking to Tommy about was how like some black people were upset that they said Kamala Harris's rallies look like a HBCU homecoming.
Mm.
Oh, I
Am I
don't
allowed
want
to
to.
talk
I'm
here?
not going for. Yeah, you. I mean, you can't. I don't want to. I'm not voting for her. It look like HBCU homecoming. I'm not voting for
Mm.
that. It looks like HBCU. She got Meg Thee Stallion up there and Beyonce walking out. It looks like HBCU homecoming. But at the same time, these were a lot of the people that like love Meg Thee Stallion, and on top of that, love Beyonce even more. And I don't know if you guys remember if you are familiar, but Beyonce headlined Coachella, and she was the first like black woman, I guess, to headline Coachella. I'm probably
Mhm.
from what I gathered. And she always said, I never got to go to college. If I did, I would go to an HBCU. And
Mhm.
so she pretty much had like the whole stage was like, like an HBCU band. It was kind of like that experience. It was like a
Mhm.
HBCU homecoming. So I don't know why, like, if that was what it was. But this is gonna be wild. I don't know how's this gonna shake out. And then I saw a lot of people on, TikTok and online pretty much saying things like, she has to know something. There has to be something bigger happening here, right? She's a prosecutor.
Sorry, you still there?
like, it's a wrap. It's done. It's and people were saying things like that to cope, that like she has something up her sleeve and she's gonna come back with something and she's playing chess, not checkers. And there was a video or a
No.
photo. Sorry, real quick. There was a photo of her like playing Connect Four or like a game with her
Mm,
great nieces,
yeah.
and she looked happy. And people were like, "Nah, she's smiling because she got some of her sleeve." She
No. That was kind of the funny thing. As soon as the election was called, then you started seeing, leftists and liberal uh, people on like Twitter or online and stuff.
Mhm.
Now, then the roles were reversed. There was a bunch of conspiracies about the election
Yeah.
being stolen for Trump. And it's just like, I'm going to tell you the same thing I told my Republican friends who said 2020 was stolen. It's like, you take your evidence, you don't take it to social media, you take it to the courts.
Mhm.
Okay. That's what you got to do.
Yeah, some
You
lady
know?
was like, "Yo, I checked my ballot on vote.org and it was missing.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't there." And somebody was like, "You don't run to TikTok with this information. You call your local
Mm-hmm.
like election like place, and like
Yeah.
take it to the people who could actually do something about it." Like,
Yeah.
but everything is to get a viral clip, I guess. I don't know.
I mean, I don't think we should breathe any life to the stolen election narrative. I mean, having
Yeah.
faith in election security is very important. And even if one side ran with it for 4 years, like my side, I'm just telling you, don't do it. Like we want to bring faith back into election security. There's absolutely no evidence that anything went down, anything significant. You know,
Mhm.
every inevitably every election cycle, people will be like, "Look, this person died, but their vote counted," right? And it's just like, well, did they vote before they died? Because every state allows the vote to be counted.
Yeah.
You know, if you get to get, if you get it in. So I mean, there's just all this stuff going on online, and it's just like, y'all, if you got evidence, more power to you. Lawyer up, take it to court, or go talk
Yeah.
to your election commissioner. Something. Believe me, there are people out there that would pay your lawyer fees if you had evidence. They'd do it. You know, but
Yeah.
got to get off of it, man. Got to stop making excuses. You can't throw demographics under the bus. You can't talk about how you got cheated or anything like that. I mean, you need to look inward.
But the
You know,
Democrats aren't going to do that.
they're trying not to. I mean, like some of the worst takes on corporate media right now. A lot of corporate surrogates are out there trying to say that they lost because of wokeism, pronouns. They're saying the transgender thing has gone too far. That's why it happened. And it's just like that's first of all a very grim sign because it means are we about to like pretty much throw an entire community under the bus when like you could really point to some actual problems that were going on with this election cycle. It's like,
Yo,
look at those. Yeah, go ahead.
no, go ahead, go ahead. Fit it. You could go.
I mean, there were so many Democrats, Senate candidates, congressional candidates, gubernatorial candidates who were like trying to run away from this wokeism charge. It's always Democrats are always like saying, they're getting accused of something. And instead of saying you're deflecting, they just go, wait, no, I'm not. I'm not that. I mean, we saw the guy who was running for Texas Senate against Ted Cruz. Like he literally came out with TV ads saying, I'm not woke. I don't believe, and literally said boys and girls sports and stuff.
Mhm,
None of that
mhm.
is true. And it's just like, okay, I guess we were just too woke this cycle, MSNBC. Is that really the take? Is that it? And then the other Democrats are saying, we're not conservative enough on the border. And it's like, are we about to just go completely far right wing on the border now?
So here's the thing that the Republicans do extremely well. Like they are doing very well on like the messaging, you know,
Mm-hmm.
to people.
Yeah.
And I've seen this a lot. Like if you look at the top like podcasts in the US, like they're conservative podcasts
Mm-hmm.
that get hundreds of millions of views like combined. Like so that's a huge like reach that they have.
Yeah.
Even though like Harris never mentioned, transgender anything during her rallies really, or even talk about like her gender herself or her identity.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's like what they like made it about. And that messaging stuck with people. The Democrats sucked at countering that.
Yeah. Exit polls showed that, the economy and the border were like the number one issues for sure. But even there was a measurable number of respondents who said that the transgender thing has gone too far. Like literally was like an exit poll question, like something
Right.
like
Like
6% of
defunding the
Americans.
police and, the
Yeah,
transgender stuff is why she lost. But she never campaigned on
she
that. That was
never
never.
campaigned on that. She stayed away from all the the identitarian stuff, identity politics, you
Mhm.
know. And it's like what's happening on MSNBC and all of those other talk shows on CNN, all those, quote unquote Democratic strategists, what they're trying to do is they're trying to cover up for, the party elite's failures. They're trying to turn it around and say, oh, it's the progressives' fault. It's the
Mm.
progressives who did this. And it's just like, well, it wasn't the progressives who made Biden run again. It wasn't the progressives who made him drop. It wasn't the progressives who you know, I don't want to speak too ill of it because she didn't have enough room to do much. But it wasn't the progressives that were telling her to go with for the third consecutive time. The theory of the case being Donald Trump's character, democracy, and all this other stuff. It's like that's the
Mhm.
third election we've done this, where it's like, bridge devise, civility, Donald Trump's character, and it's just like at a certain point, it's just going to be seem like it's lecturing. Like at least he's giving us vague policy positions, but you're telling me that, oh, it's democracy. Democracy's on the ballot. But what does that mean? You know, it's the
You
third
know,
time we went with that.
oh my gosh. Okay, so that's an interesting point. So I was watching or listening to The Daily, the New York Times podcast a few weeks ago,
Mm,
and Asted Herndon
mm,
was on there talking about how people didn't really take the Democrats seriously when they were saying democracy is at stake, and we're going to pretty much saying that he's a threat to democracy, what have you. He said
mm,
they never countered what the alternative or the fix is. So it pretty much put out there like he's a threat to the status quo, and how democracy is functioning is fine, and he's a threat to that. But the
mm.
majority of people, I would assume, like would say that like they don't feel like the system is working in their favor.
Exactly. No, that's exactly it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like after 2016, I was shocked. I was surprised. And I knew I was out of touch. So, I went and talked to my friends who are Trump supporters who we just always kind of avoided talking.
Mhm.
And, beneath it all, it's like we I mean, these people don't have faith in their government or the institutions anymore. And those are very valid, like, opinions because it's like we could look to political scientists' analysis that shows us that our legislation is geared towards one class of people and it's not the lower class people. So, I mean, Hillary has to come in, status quo, everything's fine. Barack Obama's her incumbent, very hard position to be in, you know. And then Trump
Mhm.
gets to be the change candidate, says, I'm going to make it all better. I'm going to drain the swamp. And it's just like everybody is pissed off that our governments don't work for us and they work for a very small group of people. And here's a guy coming along saying it's all rigged. He's at least validating that belief, and I'm going to make it
Mhm.
better. And for three elections in a row, the Democratic theory of the case has been civility, democracy on the ballot. It's just like it's
Yeah,
tough.
there has to be a lot more. So yeah, like when you hear that message, it's like I'm struggling, right?
Yeah.
I'm having a hard time, like, affording groceries and things like that.
Hmm.
And I said this like a while ago. I'm like, damn, like, I worry about taking care of myself. Obviously, like I take care of like some family members things, but like in my home, it's just me, and
Hmm.
I was thinking about like people with kids and stuff like that. Like, dang, like how are you guys making ends meet? I posted that like a year or so ago.
Hmm.
But Morning Joe, I guess he was on the air the other day and they were talking about inflationary prices. And they
Hmm.
said something about butter and how it was like $7 for like, thing of butter. And he's like,
Yeah.
"Oh my gosh, what is it like framed in gold?" And they were like, "No, that's what it costs. Like that's what people are having a hard time like affording." Right? Like
Yeah.
he kind of just had like this look of shock because he didn't like understand.
I mean, I'm kind of surprised he even knows $7 for butter is that expensive.
He was like,
Because
$7 for
how would he
butter?
even know? Like, how would he even know what milk is like? When's the last time he went grocery shopping? You know what I mean? He's probably got
Yeah.
helpers. I mean,
And his
like
wife on those his wife sitting next to Mika, she was I think she understood it, she knew. She probably grew,
yeah.
I don't know, and she was like, yeah, like, bro, like that's what it is. And it just, you could argue it's just being out of touch, like not understanding
Oh,
what
for
the
sure.
average people go through. I
I
mean, when you're
mean,
that wealthy.
yeah, it's pretty telling those people are going with that stuff. And like I said, for the first show you had me on, I was saying, hey, by the traditional numbers under Biden, everything's great.
Mhm.
Inflation is technically down. Unemployment is technically down to healthy numbers. But when we said then I said, I made the point, the traditional numbers are wrong. Like unemployment was never meant to be this like gold standard for the health of the economy. The economists who came up with it will tell you that. Something better for that is work for workforce participation rate, which has been down under every president. It's gone down under every president. And
Mhm.
then yeah, prices aren't making any sense. And Harris did lightly touch on the fact that we're being price gouged, which we are. But that unfortunately wasn't one of her central messages, you know.
Right.
And then at least the other guy's saying, hey, we're going to bring prices down. Um, yeah, he's pretty scant on policy, but I think it beats the feel good narratives of civility and democracy on the ballot and all this other stuff. Got to stick to
Yeah.
bread and butter.
Well, that's the thing. Like on paper, sure, the economy looks great, but that means
Hmm.
absolutely nothing if people aren't feeling it, right? Like if you
Exactly.
and when people are like, "Oh, the stock market." This is another like this is another issue I have. Like people who probably don't have stocks are so worried about the stock market. I mean, it could be that your retirement or you have something and, that could be affected by that. But I mean, like we're not like people who own like a bunch of stocks that we have to like be worried about it to that kind of level. I don't know if that makes sense, but somebody
Hmm.
said imagine dollar store increasing to $1.25. LOL, like seriously, shake my
Man,
head.
I grew up with a real Dollar General, and it ain't the same. A lot of
Yeah.
stuff in there is $2. It's got me, you know, you got to
I
change the
think she
name.
I think she means like the Dollar Tree, right? Like everything is a dollar.
Is everything a dollar in there?
No, everything was a
Okay,
dollar is what I'm
and now
saying.
it's $1.25.
And now it's $1.25.
I mean,
That same person.
inflation is inevitable, but I mean, that's kind of a different thing. Like people
Mhm.
aren't feeling great. You can look at the traditional numbers all you want, doesn't feel good for the everyday people. So the message of, hey, here's me and Liz Cheney, we're coming together, civility and all this other stuff. It's just not going to hit as well as I'm going to bring prices down.
Mhm.
I mean, you don't have to tell them how because the other side isn't really doing it that often, not as often as they should.
Mhm.
Um, so I mean, I think that's where a lot of people went with him. And I'm Hispanic, right? And
Mhm.
I've actually I've had a lot of discussions with our state party leadership here about how Democrats don't know how to talk to Hispanic people. And I think they would be very surprised with how many Hispanic people are actually quite conservative on the border. I think that's one of the other reasons why he cleaned up with Latino voters.
Why do you think that is? Tell me why.
Well, because okay, so this is from my perspective, being from the Hispanic community, I
Yeah.
think that Democrats often mistake being pro-immigration to being pro-immigrant, right? And I'll explain what I mean. Pro-immigration is, hey, let's make things easier to come into the country, that sort of thing. I mean, and there are reforms needed for sure. And then pro-immigrant, well, imagine you came here the right way because little do the Democrats know, I guess, there is a path to citizenship. There is a quote unquote right way to get here. And there are a lot of people, a lot of Hispanic people who came the right way, and then they get here, they do it all right, and then they have to still compete with undocumented immigrant workers. You
Ooh, I
know,
don't like that.
and so it's like a Hispanic person sees that they came here the right way, or their family member came here the right way, and they still have to compete with somebody who didn't. It's a very testy topic to broach in the Democratic Party. But yeah, I mean, it's just like
Hmm.
Hispanic people do not believe pro-immigration necessarily means pro-immigrant. You know,
Do you think I mean, that also seems like it translates to everything else, like student loan debt relief, right? Like,
hmm
I paid off of my student debt, like, why should somebody else get theirs just written off like that?
Well, I mean,
I
I
mean,
wouldn't. Yeah,
it seems like, if I did it this right way, it's not fair that, like
sure, but there's a bit of a difference there. I mean, good for you. Your economic situation was great, and you got to pay it off. There are how many people who are can't even keep up with the interest? And remember, it's
Mm,
not their fault. And I don't want to sound too libertarian here. It's the government's fault. The student loan debt crisis. You know, Even
Mm,
if, and that's the one thing. It's like, yeah, I would have liked my $20,000 in student loans to be forgiven, but like, are they going to be fixing the problem? Student
mhm,
loan debt is not dischargeable through bankruptcy. It's guaranteed by the full faith of the government. And it's just like, well, that's going to cause tuition to shoot up. But people are like, oh, you can't pay that all off, and it's just like, how much it would cost to pay off like $50,000 for everybody who owns student loans, 1 year of the military budget. You would get rid of basically 80% of the student debt holders would have all of their money forgiven, all of their
mhm.
loans forgiven, and yeah, it cost about $1 trillion or 1 year of the military budget. So when you bring that up, there's still a lot of mental gymnastics saying, well, we can't really impact how the military budget is, and it's just like, well, okay, well, either it's too much or it's not too much. You know, I don't know. I have these conversations, and I'm full of
Yeah.
these little facts and figures, and it's not convenient for people's worldviews sometimes.
Mm,
But I'm also
I don't
not great
know.
at articulating.
So, I mean, the election's over. It is what it is.
Hmm.
Like, there could be a lot of reasons why, Harris didn't win. Trump
Hmm.
spent a fraction of what she did in
Oh
overall.
yeah,
Also, I want to talk about like the whole Oprah Winfrey thing. I saw that on the Shade Room on Instagram,
yeah,
and it was somebody who like ran up on Oprah. First off, like the fact that Oprah would just be walking down a regular street and
huh,
getting into a car to drive herself. Most billionaires have their own security team, right? Like
yeah,
people in the comments were like, "Wait a minute! Like, where did you find Oprah? Like, where did you find Oprah just randomly walking down the street?" Right? Like, my gosh! And the first question is, you ask her for, did you get paid $1 million? Be like, Oprah, like, I'm struggling. Throw me a band. Like, it won't hurt your pockets. But people are just like, oh, she got paid $1 million to endorse Harris, but it's
yeah.
like she's a multi-billionaire.
You're
$1 million
taking,
is pennies to her.
to her credit, a decent amount of the money that $1 billion that Harris raised. Of course, all of it, most of it was from very wealthy individuals and organizations, but she actually did get a lot of grassroots donations, relatively
Mhm.
speaking. But to then see that turned around and give a billionaire woman $1 million essentially for her endorsement, that was just like, wow, you're taking people's hard-earned money in certain situations to do that.
Mm.
And she's a billionaire, like you said. And actually, I kind of just learned only recently how like every endorsement, celebrity endorsement or appearance basically comes with a paycheck. So even Hulk Hogan, when he's ripping his shirt off at the RNC, and you're just going, "Wow, that is wild." He's getting paid to
Mhm.
do that. You know,
Yeah.
even Kid Rock got paid. And it's just like, I thought you believed in these people.
Mm.
Like, why would you not do it for free? Why would you not show up for free?
Yeah.
And that goes for Kid Rock and Beyonce. I know two wildly different people, but still, it's the same thing.
Mhm. I think it's just their
Mhm.
appearance fee.
If you believe in a candidate, you shouldn't have to charge them. Maybe
No, I mean, like,
travel.
if you truly believe in the message and you truly
Yeah,
believe that this is going to help make your fans' lives better, the people who,
yeah,
like keep your relevancy up, like, this is going to help my fans, this is going to help my audience, this is what my
uh-huh.
audience, blah blah blah, and then turn around and be like, but that'll cost you a cool 5 million. Like,
I'm sorry. That is just, and I only recently learned this was the thing, and it's just like the people who your money can go further at the local level.
yeah.
Somebody for state legislature, county commission, city council, save your money for them. You
Hmm.
know, don't give $1 million to Oprah.
Yo, speaking of legislatures, what do you think of how ours shook out?
Oh, uh, when we were going over it on our show, I was saying like, oh, Democrats have a pretty decent shot at getting 17 or 18. And what
Hmm.
I forgot was Lynn Walls' seat in LD 15. I forgot that was just going to go straight safe R. I forgot
Mm.
to account for that. So yeah, we're going to walk away with like 16 seats, liberals 16 seats. There's going to be at least one liberal independent, and there might be a second one, although I think Ashley Spivey is going to win. So
Has that
yeah,
race
there will
not
be.
already been called?
No, because there's 335 provisional ballots still yet to be counted.
Gotcha.
Spivey has like 60 or 70 vote lead. But I mean, if you do the math, like even if 100% of those ballots, those provisional ballots got cured and approved and counted, Batter would have to win 80% of them in order to beat Spivey. And he would only beat her by like one vote in that case. And so that's not likely to happen. He's not likely to win provisionals by 80%. So Spivey should win. She should hold on to it. They might get a recount, but if the recount's not, if the final vote share is not within like 20 votes, she's got it. You know.
Mm.
So, so yeah, I mean, at this point, Republicans are going to walk away with a true supermajority. You know, and the the Trump playbook is going to be in full force. So I don't know what else is coming up. I expect transgender sports argument is going to probably come back up again. You know.
LB 575. That's the one.
Yeah, and one of the things that I completely missed was that the abortion ban that passed here,
Mhm.
first and only abortion ban to be put into a constitution in the country. What I didn't understand is like, and I think you're the one who put me onto this, was like, yeah, you can't have abortions beyond the 12th week, but that doesn't mean they couldn't like set a 6-week abortion ban. It doesn't fix it at 12. That's just the ceiling. It means they could the legislature could get rid of exceptions and they could bring it down to 6 weeks. And that's the thing that
Mm.
really worries me is like now they have a real supermajority. You got to hope like someone like Merv Reapy didn't get yelled at by the far right crowd too much to actually stick to his grounds. But it's possible we're looking at a 6-week ban. You know.
And I mean, I think that like after that like came out, some people were saying no, it's not actually a ban.
Mm.
And I'm like, then what is it? Like
So
what was the point of the ballot initiative and everything? What is it actually then? It was banned, but I guess the way you explained it makes sense, right? Like that's the
hmm
ceiling. They could go lower.
yeah, it could go
And
lower,
I
and I didn't
I
realize that at first.
and I feel like that was do you think that was intentional?
Oh, of course. I mean, it was there at the end. The last few weeks, like confusion was the number one weapon.
Mm,
And I mean, you saw people like we had name and likeness student athletes on there saying that 434 is the one that's going to be great for women, and 439, that's going to give men the right to an abortion. They're going to be able to force women to have abortions because they're going to have a constitutional right to an abortion too.
okay, so
Like,
this is gonna sound crazy. Do you think those athletes knew, like, truly understood and knew?
yeah, oh for sure, yeah. I
You
think that
think they did?
I think they were pro-life athletes. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, somebody coming along and asking you to pay money, like if it's going to be something that charged, you either believe in it or you want to protect your bottom line. Those athletes most likely knew exactly what was going on.
Yeah.
So,
So I am interested to see, I guess what ends up shaking out in the legislature. We'll kind of see party leadership here, the Nebraska party leadership. We're talking
mhm,
about how, there are moderate Republicans we can
mhm.
work with. And then it also like begs a question like, would they work at all with like the other side at all on anything? Will any of their
Um,
stuff get passed or
on economic policy, sure, they always work together on economic policy. That's because our Democrats are basically conservative on economic policy. So, I don't see any big problems there. It's the social policies that is going to be a battle. And like, listen, being a state party chair, it's a very difficult job. If you get everything right, you're not going to get any credit. Nobody's going to be talking about you, right? And if something goes wrong, you're going to be the first person who gets criticized, right? Everybody's going to say it was you why Tony Vargas lost, and they just don't understand the mechanics of how a state party works.
yeah.
Um, but her having to come in and say, moderate Republicans, don't worry, and it's just like she's just in a position where she has to say something like that. It's not true. We're not.
Dude,
You cannot expect moderate Republicans to help us on social issues. But I mean, that's something you got. I mean, you can't just be like doomer. That's the position you're in when you're a state party chair. Is you have to try to look at the positives, and you got to start, trying to put out the fires and think about the future, which they're already doing. Um, I have some friends in the DNC who are talking about how there's the battle for the DNC chairs going on right now.
Yeah.
Same thing that happened in the fall of 2016.
What do you think is going to shake out from that? I guess for
But,
people who like, so I don't think probably the people watching don't really understand. Maybe they do, like the DNC chair and all of that stuff, and like kind of
mhm,
getting into like the nitty gritty of things, like who this person is and who that person is and stuff. I think we only think of just politicians like, oh, Nancy Pelosi is actually running things. People don't think
mhm,
of like, oh, it's the actual guy who's running the DNC who's like, doing X, Y, and Z. They kind of just blame like the high profile, like,
mhm.
politicians out there because they're
Yeah,
seen as the leaders of the party to some extent.
yeah. Well, it depends. When you have a president, that's the leader of your party. You know,
Mhm.
that's the, for sure on paper, no hesitation. That's the leader of your party. When you don't have a president, your chair is one of the leaders of the party, and if they, kind of oppose like the normal party elite, they can really take the party in a different direction.
Mhm.
But for the most part, when you're Jamie Harrison or Tom Perez, like you're just kind of taking marching orders from people like Pelosi or Chuck Schumer, that sort of
Mhm.
thing. But the battle is just the same as it was in 2016. It's the progressive wing of the party versus the corporate wing of the party. You have people like Martin O'Malley. He's lining up to be party chair, and it's just like if that's what the DNC picks, then you're gonna yeah they're not learning any lessons anytime soon.
Mm.
Unfortunately, somebody I really liked, Stacey Abrams. She's really, really in favor of like PAC money these days, so she would probably be very corporate if she were the chair. But then you got progressives who are trying to battle. They're trying to say, "Hey, listen, y'all screwed it up. You barely eked out a win in 2020. Why don't you let us take over and go for populist messaging this time?" You have right now. You have somebody named Ken Martin from Minnesota, very
Mhm.
progressive. I do believe he was like a Bernicrat in the past or something like that. But I mean, they've had a lot of progressive successes there in Minnesota's, and he's getting a lot of state party chair backing. He's getting a lot of progressive support.
Mm.
He's the answer. But then also there's the chair of the Wisconsin Democratic Party. His name is Ben Weekler. He's also getting progressive backing. And according to some people I know in the DNC, remember, just a fly on the wall here, don't have any pull. People are just kind enough to let me know. According to them, Ben Weekler and Ken Martin had a meeting recently to discuss who knows what, but at the same time, they are two of the progressives who are emerging from this battle for a DNC chair. So one of them, I'm hoping for one of them.
Mm.
Just please not Martin O'Malley.
Well, tell what's up with that guy?
Oh gosh, but he's the mayor of Baltimore, and basically at the time when he was mayor, like The Wire, the TV show The Wire about how awful crime is in Baltimore, was
Mhm.
basically based on the period in which he was a mayor. And then he ran for I want to say he ran for the Democratic nomination in 2016 and absolutely crashed and burned. I mean, it was just going to be Hillary versus Bernie in that one, but I mean, couldn't get any traction for president. He's very friendly to corporate donors, a lot of money. And I
Mhm.
mean, the battle you're going to see is the typical party elites versus the outsider progressives. And I'm a progressive. I think, hey, 3 elections we did the corporate thing, even more than that.
Yeah.
I mean, I think the last time we didn't do the whole corporate like elitist like playbook was 2008 when Obama came along and said, "Screw y'all! Like I'm not following any rules. I'm going to definitely run for president," and then he won the whole thing. And
Mhm.
unfortunately, he became president. It's hard to just let to be on the outside. So I mean, he kind of got a little used to the party elite, and now he kind of is the party elite. So I mean, I shouldn't say
Y
kind of, but
yeah, I mean, but he's extremely popular,
oh yeah,
that guy could campaign, and a lot of people said that
for
too,
sure.
like, he was very good at speaking to people and, like, sending out a message, and honestly, I think that's kinda like what the Democrats, like, struggled with this cycle, like, there wasn't, like, kind of a central message,
Oh
right?
no.
Like,
Oh, there
Trump
was
was
a central
talking.
message. It was just the same bland democracy stuff. Civility stuff is
Yeah.
important, but like it's the third time we're hearing that in 8 years.
Yeah.
you know?
I mean, Trump was doing he was talking about, like, safety and, I'm trying to protect your family from, people coming in across
Mhm.
the border, like illegal migrants and,
Yeah.
so my whole thing is like, okay, now like he's there, let's see like, what he's gonna do. He has all three branches of government. And I swear, when
Mhm.
I was watching his victory speech, kind of like when he came out to his crowd,
Mhm.
and I can't remember. This had to be, I was watching just like a rewind of it, and he was talking about like uniting people, and there were signs that said Trump will fix everything and
Hope
all
so.
of this stuff. And there was kind of I could have sworn there was a look on his face of kind of like a yeah. Do you
I
know
mean,
what I mean?
he's got some people to pay back. Was it Miriam Adelson? She's the widow of the
Yes.
casino magnate. She's the widow of the casino magnate.
Yeah.
She gave him $100 million, and
Not no,
basically
it was she gave him $130 million. And the
okay,
last 2 election cycles, they gave him $100 million each. So
yeah.
they're like $330 million in deep with this guy
Yeah, and the thing that they want the most is they want Israel to take over with the West
to
Bank.
annex the whole
100%.
West Bank.
Completely annex it, completely settle it. That's what they want. I
Mm,
mean, you got a lot of money from the Adelsons in the 2016 run, and what'd you get? You got the United States that recognized Israel's like control over the Golan Heights. It's
mhm.
not very anti-war. Um,
But he also he moved the embassy to
and
Jerusalem and, recognized that as the capital of Israel.
hmm yeah, it's a contentious thing because Jerusalem is kind of shared by the three denominations and stuff, or the three
Mm,
branches, and American policy kind of they left it in Tel Aviv because it was trying to like not stoke things because moving the American embassy to Jerusalem and recognizing it as the capital really irks like Israeli Arabs. So, but yeah, I mean, the Adelsons is probably why it got moved to Jerusalem, why it got recognized as the capital when Trump first won, and there's a pretty good chance that this time Trump will just say, "Yeah, go ahead, annex the whole West Bank. We're cool with that." And then whatever happens to Gaza, I have no idea. Right now, the Israelis are like they're shutting off North Gaza, like they're completely securing the North Gaza border.
Well, they already
And
said, did you see that they announced it, like, some, politician, I don't know off the top of my head, in Israel was talking about, yeah, it is time to annex the West Bank, like, they've already started these talks to,
hmm
like, do it.
hmm
And so then, like, just, if you look at the people, the Arab
hmm
Americans who voted, third party in Michigan, it wasn't enough to make up the difference.
yeah,
However, for Harris to win. However, I've seen time and time again, like the uncommitted movement, like if you don't vote for like vote third party or don't vote at all, or if you have to vote, like vote for Donald Trump, but don't vote for Kamala. So maybe there was a lot of people who just stayed home, or maybe they did
no,
kind
for
of just
sure.
leave the top of the ticket blank.
Yeah, no, you saw nearly a 10% drop in youth turnout
Yeah.
from 2020. And like this is after youth turnout smashed records in 2018, 2020, and 2022, right? And that is a huge reason why you saw youth turnout drop because the youth voters tend to care more about that sort of thing. And like it really was like a topic that just kind of caught on fire when it came for, like Gen Zers, young millennials, that sort of thing.
Hmm.
And there was a pretty good concerted effort of leftists, and there's a difference between a leftist, a liberal, and progressive, and Democrat. There was a very concerted effort by leftists to basically drag her down over that issue. And it worked. I think it worked. I just think the drop in youth turnout, that's probably the main reason. And then, yeah, I think plenty of other demographics might have also been a little demoralized too and didn't turn out.
Hmm.
But in the end, it's not their fault. If it was me, I'm not about to go to somebody who's really torn up over Gaza and be like, yeah, but you got to vote for Harris or it's going to get worse. And it's like, it's already a nightmare over there. Like, how could
Mm.
you pitch that? You really can't, you know? And that's why Harris and nobody else really said that, even though, I mean, that might be where it's going. It might get way worse.
Well, and that's the thing. And on TYT, they were talking about how like if the entire West Bank is annexed, like the Arab world isn't going to like stand for that. Like
No,
something is going to
no.
have like happen of it. And
Iran, yeah.
let's talk about his cabinet picks. Marco Rubio is now the Secretary of State, who is
That's what they think. Not
no,
just
it's
yet,
been.
but yes.
Are you sure? Because
But
I
was
feel like
it
it's
was it for sure announced? I thought it last time I saw it.
yeah, I feel like it was for sure announced like earlier today, like hours ago.
Said to be Trump's pick as of 4 hours ago. Trump expected to tap Marco Rubio. I don't see anything official yet.
Well,
Oh,
if
look
he
at
does,
that. Fetterman says he'll vote for Rubio for Secretary of State. Way to go, Fetterman.
but Rubio is like staunchly pro-Israel and
Yeah, and he's a
said
neocon.
all the right things, and all that type of stuff. There was a video of him like when they're like hounding members of Congress as like they're walking wherever like to and from like
Mm-hmm.
the chambers to their offices, and he was like saying all the talking points. He's like, Hamas is using Israel's civilians as shields, and they started this, saying all the right things for them.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, make sure you post that. Make sure you post that.
Oh gosh.
Before he
He
walked in
reminds
there, he
me.
looked back. He's like, make sure you post that.
Oh, he's a
And
diva.
and apparently, like the Adelsons love him.
Oh, I bet.
And
Yeah, I mean it's looking like it's going grim. I remember somebody else who was on our show talking about how anti-war Trump is going to be, and now he's starting to stack his cabinet full of neocon warmongers in his
who
Department of
else?
Defense.
Elise
Uh,
Stefanik is
um,
she's
yeah,
the ambassador, the U.S. ambassador to the UN is who he tapped her to be.
great.
Um, and she was like, I don't know if you guys remember, but she was like on a vendetta against like these Ivy League presidents of these
Oh
university
yeah,
Ivy League schools, like getting them to resign and putting the pressure on, putting the heat on, and in those
yeah.
hearings. That was wild.
I bet she really didn't care about that. She cared about getting the clout from that.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But yeah, like they shook those college administrators, like to the point where like somebody testified afterwards, like a
Yeah.
week or so after they had just had a scheduling conflict, and they were just you could tell that they went
Oh
into the
yeah.
ring with
Because she
visors.
yeah, because I think you're talking about I know who you're talking about. I just don't remember the
Yeah.
exact school. But she had like a international trip that was already like planned in the books before they even like scheduled these hearings. So they like let her
Hmm.
off of the original one, but she came back and was it Columbia?
Might have been. I don't know. Yeah, can't remember.
But
It's a blur. It's a fever dream. So long ago.
but yeah, like the wildest thing about like presidential election cycles is options are open, right? Everybody's auditioning for something. Everybody's auditioning. You want to be PV pick, like show me what you got, like so you have to go on like these shows and this media tour to like flex whatever. Like everyone's
Yeah,
auditioning down to the clothes they're wearing.
man.
Options, we got options. Like who are we gonna pick for this? Like show me what you got. Everybody's auditioning for something.
Elena Cannon, bro, she is gonna get a circuit appointment. She's barely even been a trial judge in a federal district court, but she
I don't
like
know who
she
that
really
is.
him. So she's the judge that Trump appointed on the way out. She was put in the one of the Florida district courts, and that's the
Mm.
one where Trump's like intelligence doc trial had to be first filed. That's where the trial was supposed to be,
Mm-hmm.
and she did a lot of strange things. Um, and it looks like it was meant to delay, but there's some people also came out and said some people that were forced to be her clerks, like she could not find voluntary clerks, which is kind of crazy. Some people were forced to be her clerks, and then they were doing a temporary kind of duty with them, and then when they left they were like, she is all kinds of stressed out. She does not know what she's just absolutely like riddled with she's just paralyzed, right?
Mm.
But in the end, like she really did kind of like hamstring an investigation into the classified documents case, and that's where one of the laws were broken. So, uh, she might get some dividends coming through in a little bit. I don't know. She's barely been uh, a district court judge, and she might be put up to a circuit, and after 4 years maybe, which is, if she's auditioning, she did it well, you know. But yeah, no, you're right. People are auditioning all the time. Um,
Yeah.
so yeah,
And I'm
go ahead.
I was gonna say, and they're gonna continue to do so just because like people, not everybody stuck it out toward the end of his cabinet picks, like
Definitely, yeah.
the first time around, right? So people are going to keep it's gonna keep changing.
Maybe. I mean, he might be picking the loyalists. I mean, so first of all, he picked a guy named Pete Hegseth to be his defense secretary.
Mm,
That's a guy who really wants a war with Iran. You know what I'm saying? Also, he just so happens to be a skeptic on the Ukrainian war. Like he doesn't think we should be supporting Ukraine, but he wants to go to war with Iran. You know. So I mean, these are the type of people that are coming into the anti-war Trump presidency. Apparently, he's got somebody named Mike Waltz who's coming in on his national security council. That's a guy who's very much a neocon warmonger. So it's like we were being told how much he hates war and stuff, and now he's stacking the deck with a bunch of warmongers, chicken hawks, and it's like, well, I guess that one's not going to pan out.
not
You
chicken
know,
hawks.
chicken hawks. I mean, those are the people who beat the war drum for Iraq, and then it's like, well, would you go to war? Oh no, I got 3 draft deferments. Which more power to you. I wouldn't want you to go to the Vietnam War. But it's just like, why would you be so hawkish when you definitely weren't hawkish when the draft was happening,
Yeah.
you know? But no, he's stacking his administration with plenty of warmongers. So I don't think that part of the pledge is going to pan out. But yeah, maybe I'm wrong. Hopefully. So
Yeah, I'm really interested to see, what do you think one of the first acts they're gonna do? They wanna repeal the Affordable Care Act, Obamacare, which, they could do. I mean, if they have all 3 branches and, Trump said that's something he really wants to do,
mm-hmm.
for sure, I think they would get rid of the filibuster for
Yeah,
that.
if he tells him to. Yeah.
The tax cuts,
He wants to extend the Trump tax cuts. Yeah.
yeah.
The first thing he's going to do is executive orders, right? And one of the
Mm,
first executive orders he's going to pass is he's going to basically, see, under his presidency, and I even think the Obama presidency, the military was providing transgender care, and that's one of the first things his first executive orders is going to be is like no more of that.
mm.
Basically, people who are on trans care, they're going to have their care ended, right? One of the other ones that's being floated around is he's going to create a new council called the Warrior Board or something like that. And these are going to be people who, and this is just being reported, these are going to be people who are going to be put in charge of vetting every 3-star and 4-star general and deciding which ones need to be fired.
Can he do that? Can he fire a general?
Oh yeah, he can fire any general. Yeah, yeah, and he could promote anybody. I mean, he could reinstate.
Well, I mean, I guess that makes sense if you're the commander in chief.
Yeah, I mean, he could reinstate General Flynn if he wanted to.
Really?
Reinstate
Do
him, make him. Go ahead.
do you think he would?
Oh, I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen. I
You
don't
know,
trust.
I think he's gonna like move forward. Like he's not working. Nikki Haley's not going to be in an administration. Mike Pompeo isn't going to be. I think that I think he wants to move a. I want. I think he want.
The
I think he
reason
wants to
why,
bring. I think he wants to bring new people into the fold. But yes, like they're loyalists that are going to do whatever he wants to do. But I
yeah,
don't think he's going to like go back to the people that that was once in his administration
oh,
because those were the
not
guardrails.
not the exact same people, but I mean, he's still going for the same kind of people, except yeah, he's looking for more loyalty for sure. Um, Him announcing Nikki Haley and Mike Pompeo not going into his administration was just like, hey, the neocon chicken hawks, well, oh, they're not going to be here, but I'm going to appoint the ones you've never heard of, like Pete Hegseth and Mike Waltz.
Mhm.
Reportedly he wanted Tom Cotton to be in his administration as either Secretary of State or Department of Defense or something like that. And Tom Cotton was like, no, I want to stay in the Senate. Tom Cotton is one of the biggest neocons there is, one of the biggest warmongers there is. So, I mean, that's where we're headed so far on that front.
So I mean, like, if he completely, he did say he wants Netanyahu to end the war quickly, but
What does
never
that mean?
specified. Yeah, never specified. And
Yeah.
so there was a lot of interviews, a lot of videos of Arab American voters out of Michigan that were talking about, we just, this is what Trump told us, and we want to give Gaza a second chance.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, it wasn't his son like talking about the Gaza Strip would like be night like prime beachfront real estate and stuff. So I mean, like,
I think I'm going to stick my head in the sand on this one because I mean, I just hope I'm wrong, but honestly, I think that they're just going to completely settle Gaza. They're going to completely annex the West Bank. You know, they might even keep. I mean, they're currently occupying Lebanon, South Lebanon. I mean, they never left the Golan Heights. Why would they? You know, they don't necessarily have to leave South Lebanon.
Hmm.
I think Netanyahu wants open war with Iran. You know, as soon as this war ends, and then the unity government ends, people are going to be like, well, let's figure out how October 7th happened. One of the greatest intelligence failures of all time. It's got to be. They have such smart. I mean, they have smart technology monitoring their borders 24/7. They have one of the most robust intelligence agencies in the world. You know, like how did they let that happen? And they're going to launch an investigation, and his career is going to be over, because in the end, the fault is going to be with him. And when the war ends, that's when the chickens come home to roost for him. So I mean, he just wants to stay in it for as long as he can. I mean, that's his motivation for sure.
Yeah.
So I don't
Chickens
know.
coming home to roost. Yeah, dude, I think that moving forward, the Democrats really got to figure out what they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Figure out better messaging. Bernie Heights has kind of been going scorched earth on them. Like he and Nancy, like this is the most interesting thing. Like he and Nancy, like he was saying what he wanted to say or put out that statement, and then Nancy Pelosi did that, sit down podcast interview with the New York Times,
Mm-hmm.
and then he came back and like said some things. Like it's true. Like you really got to figure out like what your base wants, or kind of like see what people are actually calling for, and
Mm-hmm.
get back to kind of like populism and stuff. And I often think about just like, what if Bernie was the nominee in 2016? Like, how would things
I mean,
change?
we. It's like I don't. I was a huge Bernie supporter in 2016, but it's like I almost don't want to get back into it. But yeah, I mean, you would have seen progressive populism versus conservative populism. It would have been a very interesting result. And then I'll do you one even better. Like I have a lot of friends that I talk to after this election who I know to be Trump supporters. I have very cordial relationship with them, and I'm very careful to just listen to what they have to say.
Hmm.
Several of them are like, yeah, Dem screwed up when they threw a Bernie under the bus. And like throwing him under the bus, it's a very complicated thing. I don't want to just say it's black and white like that. But you got conservative Trump supporters saying y'all messed up by not picking Bernie. It makes you wonder. It makes you wonder.
Yeah. Because
But
he had a lot of young people supporting him, like a lot.
sure,
Like that was his
sure.
base.
And they tried to make it out as his, they coined the term Bernie Bros. They tried to make it out it was like a bunch of frat boys who were, and it was just like he had such a coalition of people. It wasn't just Bernie Bros. And it's like that's another thing about it. It's like, what if we sent some of those, I guess, frat boy Bernie supporters? Where are they now? They might be Trump supporters because oh God, I shouldn't get into the weeds. The one thing I do kind of disagree with on Bernie, what he's been saying recently, is like I don't really think Democrats have fully abandoned the working class. It's like they're so obviously pro labor. You know, the labor secretary has probably been the best labor secretary for unions for like decades. So I mean, I don't completely agree with what he's saying. Could they be better on labor issues, on pro working class issues? For sure. And then also another thing is I kind of just wish he wasn't the progressive heavyweight, right? I mean, I wish he would have, I don't know, found an heir or something. I wish there was somebody who was like, I don't know, younger, who was leading the charge with the
AOC.
progressives. Yeah, but I mean, they just really didn't build up the bench. You
Mm,
know,
yeah.
he's the face of the progressive wing of the party, I guess. But hopefully they win this time and they get a progressive in as DNC chair, and we start moving in that direction of populism. You know, I mean, I didn't hear enough about healthcare this cycle from the Democrats. Where was that? You know,
Well, I mean, they did combat it with like, oh, he has concepts of a plan to, replace the Affordable
sure,
Care Act. But
sure.
I mean,
It's usually the Democrats' bread and butter, and I just did not hear that much about it. Maybe I missed it, but it
hmm,
used to be healthcare, healthcare, healthcare.
yeah.
Um, I mean, you had Tim Walz. Why weren't we talking up like free breakfast? You know,
That's the
like
thing. Like
stuff
they
like
should have
that.
like ran on that kind of stuff. And he, like the
He was in a rock
biggest
and hard
mis
place. Like,
The biggest mistake I feel like they did was, like, hiding him and
Mhm.
hiding her. Like, they didn't do a whole lot. Did you see that Joe Rogan said he reached out to the or the Harris campaign?
I'm sure he
And
did.
they were like, he was like, "Yeah, like, get her in here," and they had all these questions like, "Okay, well, are you gonna edit it?" and things like that,
Mhm.
and he was like, "No, we don't, like, edit anything. It's just kinda
Mhm.
what it is, we just sit down and have a conversation." Like, he's like, "I wanna get past the speeches, like,
Yeah.
the politically correct talking points and just, like, get in here and just have a conversation, like, who are you? Like, we wanna, like,
That's what
learn who you are."
that's what new media is, and I really do think that she kind of passed on, new media. Like, that's where the
Mhm.
young people are going. The shows like this is where they're watching. I mean, amazing statistic, right? Nielsen put out that like, something like 80 million people watched the results come in on some
Mm,
kind of media source. Half of them were on YouTube streams, stuff like that, Twitch, YouTube streams, shows like this. Half.
crazy.
You got the other half watching MSNBC, CNN. Their ratings are crashing. They're tanking, and then you got all these new media shows that are getting all of these. They're getting all these views, and a lot of those new media shows, not all of them are, but a lot of those new media shows are independent. They get the money from their audience, and you got to be careful not to get audience capture too. But
Mhm.
old media, legacy media, is losing, and that was really unfortunate that Harris just didn't embrace new media. Now, I don't think she should have gone on the Joe Rogan podcast, but she should probably gone on. Was it Brian Taylor Cohan? I
Yeah, like, he said he begged them, like,
Yeah,
he reached out to them, like, a dozen times
yeah,
and begged them to get her in front of his audience because he's this progressive,
yeah.
He's also a MSNBC contributor or commentator.
Oh, I see. I
So,
see.
like, but he has, like, 3.5 million subscribers on YouTube alone, right?
Yeah.
Arguably the hardest platform to grow on. But he
Hmm.
has this audience that tunes in. He was live tonight and 26 minutes in had, like, fourth, like, I feel like it was like 15,000 like live viewers at once, like
Hmm.
a huge reach. And
Yeah.
so they call that earned media, like going on earned media. And instead of like paying all of this money to run these ads, just go in front of
Yeah.
you know, a
That's
podcaster
what
or a streamer and like just, hang out with them and like get introduced to their audience.
I mean, that's what people want more and more. They don't want to hear an 8-minute clip of a politician who's just going to sound like a robot because they can't get any humanity into 8 minutes. They want to see
Mhm.
somebody talk for 3 hours. I
I'm
mean,
telling you.
I go ahead.
No, you if go ahead, finish your thought.
I mean, I had people who were Bernie skeptics, and he went on Joe Rogan, and they were like, "Wow, he wasn't yelling. He seemed normal." Yeah, because he was just having a conversation. He
Yeah.
wasn't in that mode, and so
Bernie
I mean,
on Joe Rogan.
I will say that like new media is important, especially independent new media, because they're not all independent. I mean, you're talking like Tim Pool's not independent, you know. Ruben, oh gosh, Dave Rubin, he's not independent. He is new media,
Mm.
he's not independent. So I mean, shows like this are important, especially shows that can actually focus on like local politics from different parts of the country.
Guys, for everyone watching, like, I don't know. I reached out to several people, actually, several candidates, but I reached out to Dan Osborne's campaign twice, and I was left
Mm,
on red both times. They read my email extremely quickly, right? Like I would
mhm.
send it and get an alert that, like, 5 minutes later they open it and saw it. So I know they saw like my
Yeah.
invitation. Left me on scene, man.
Uh, I just think that apart from conservatives, they just don't see the potential in new media. I mean, new media is completely dominated by conservatives. You're joking?
Mm.
It's like, come on, liberals, put them out there, you know? Um, but I mean, also, I interacted with his staff too, and I have mixed feelings about them. I'm sure they did their best, but they were not Nebraskan.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that was a running thing that I heard, but
yeah.
yeah, I think that I'm still concerned about Trump's economic plan, the tariffs. I can't believe the dude from Shark Tank got on CNN and botched what a tariff is.
Yeah. You see
This is
everybody who's
somebody
Googling what a tariff is after the election?
Yeah, like, it went up, like, 7,000%, what, like, a
Yeah.
day after? Like, what do we do?
Hey, man, we get the politicians we vote for. Hey, I hope I'll say the same thing after he got elected. I hope he turns out to be a great president. I hope everything gets fixed. I
Yeah.
hope so.
Yo, listen to this. So, people I went to school with,
Mhm,
probably people I was in my government and politics class with, like where we learned about in history classes where we learned about like tariffs and like the history of like like imposing tariffs and stuff like that.
mhm.
We're talking about how this is such a great thing. I'm like, bro, we were in the same class together. You don't remember when we learned about what a tariff was?
Man, all I remember is mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell. Never learned how to do my taxes, but at least I remember that, I guess. PEMDAS.
I'm telling you, yeah. Please excuse my dear Aunt Sally.
King Henry died drinking chocolate milk, something like that. At least I know the truth.
uh,
Don't know how taxes work. Don't know how tariffs works. Nobody taught me how to actually vote.
okay, so for the people watching, if you do not know what a tariff is, like let's say I got this sweater, right, for $10 off like from Walmart or whatever. I honestly think I probably got this sweater for like $7 from Walmart, but that's beside the point. Let's say it
Okay.
was $10, made in China, Taiwan, wherever, imported. And we're going to punish China, we're going to punish Taiwan, right? So, we're going to put a 20% tariff on all imported goods from China. So when Walmart goes to the ports to pick this sweater up that just got shipped over from China in a shipping container, they're going to tell them, hey, there's a tariff on products imported from China of 20%. And they're like, well, dang, like, we sell this shirt, we sell that for $10. So now you're going to tell me um, it's going to cost $12 to get the product. It's going to cost $12 to even just get the product. And then it's going to be marked up that difference or more.
Yeah.
So that money, that tariff tax that's paid at the ports by the American company that is selling this stuff goes to the US government. Once it leaves the dock and starts sailing across the ocean or Pacific, whichever direction, that country it's leaving is like completely done. Like they got their money. And so
It gets passed on to you
it gets passed
at
on to
20%.
you.
Yeah. That's
And
the way it works.
so,
Like I get it, trade wars and stuff like that, but if you really wanted to like bring manufacturing back to America, North America, that is, incentivize American companies bring manufacturing back and production back to Mexico. I know it might sound weird, but it's just like manufacturing is not coming back to America like it was in the 1950s. Just that's not going to happen. I'm sorry.
and we're in like a late stage capitalism state. Like,
Yeah, I mean, we're a service-based economy. We're not going back to be agricultural-based economy. We're not going to go back to being a manufacturing-based economy. We are a service-based economy. That is what we're doing. Coal isn't coming back. I'm sorry, it's not. Okay. But what you could do, since we're not great friends with China, is you could incentivize bringing back those manufacturing jobs to Mexico, right? It would help with the
mhm,
supply chain. We have great relations with them. We're very close to them and stuff. But also think about what it would do for the Mexican middle class. And you think,
mm,
well, why would I care about that? Well, it's like, well, then, that's going to take on trafficking, drug trafficking. They're going to, as the Mexican middle class like builds up, they're going to have opportunities to go work a manufacturing job and not have to work for a cartel or something like that. Um,
mhm,
or Mexico's middle class is going to start building up, and then we're going to actually see some of that undocumented immigration decrease here, right? Because
mm.
less people are going to want to come here because the economy in Mexico is better. I mean, like if that's what you want to do, if you really want to take on China and manufacturing in Southeast Asia, like try to bring it back to Mexico. It's
Yeah.
going to help us in several different areas. But no, if his economic policies make everything better with tariffs, good luck. I mean, he even said, "Let's do away with income tax," and it's like, okay, all
Look, let
right,
me let
raise
me
the
play
bug.
this. Let me play. Have you seen this video that I'm talking about?
No, go ahead.
I just can't get past this video. Like,
Oh, the guy Kevin O'Leary.
can you see this?
Yeah, I can see it.
Kevin O'Leary on tariffs. Okay. Oop.
I don't really understand why he keeps going back to this well of more and more and more tariffs.
Let me explain why. Let's take China. Let's take an example that every American understands: TikTok. Everybody knows TikTok. American people made a decision in Congress to ban it on midnight, Jan 19th. The supreme leader of China said, no, we're going to use your court systems to litigate the American people so that doesn't happen. I can't do that in China. The supreme leader would never let me do
Oop, sorry.
that. I can't protect my IP there. Chinese have been screwing my 45 businesses for 35 years. I like the idea of going to war with China with tariffs to change behavior.
But it didn't change behavior. All it did was hurt
Because we've
American
had
companies.
weak leadership that doesn't know how to implement.
This is the same leadership. It was
No,
Trump who
it
launched
started
the
with
trade
Biden,
war with.
then it was Clinton saying, let's democratize China, let's show them democracy, and they'll play fair in the
But to
WTO.
Catherine's point,
It's
she's
time
saying,
to raise tariffs at China to 400%.
Hang on a second.
Trump already raised tariffs on China.
Not enough. Not
there
enough.
have been many studies
The
showing that U.S. companies and consumers are the ones who bore the cost.
Academic study. I'm doing
Okay,
real
okay.
business in China. I'm actually
Okay.
doing business there.
Yeah.
I'm actually working
American
there.
companies.
There's no academics in my
Where
companies.
do you think they buy their inputs from?
Let me explain something to you.
From China.
The Chinese
It
steal
hurts
my
American-
IP. They make the same product with the molds that I pay for there. They
Okay.
ship them into this country under a different brand. I don't like it anymore, and I've been trying to solve this for
If you
30
tariff
years.
everything from China at
There's no
60%,
academic in my world. I'm
you're going to be
doing
paying
business.
more
no
for the stuff
academic
you
in my
buy.
Finish
You're
her
going to
thought
be
real
paying
quick
more for the
before you
stuff
jump
you buy.
back in.
They knew even in the 1600s
wrong.
that you should
I'm
not
not
tariff
buying it.
inputs.
Kevin,
Let's
Okay.
just
let's
let
just
her
take
finish.
a yoga
Every
mat.
American.
Put
Kevin,
a
just let her
400%
finish.
tariff on a yoga mat. We'll make it in Vietnam or make it in India or make it in America. We won't buy anything from China. And the
It will
Supreme
still
leader
be
will
more
come,
expensive.
He'll come
It
to New
will
York.
be more expensive.
No.
Yes, it will.
Absolutely,
Oh my
it
We
would
won't buy it
gosh.
from there.
Do you know what I'm saying? Hold
I
on,
get
let
it.
me
I get it. No, I get it, man.
hold on, and then hold on, wait.
Lying about the risk,
Virus says this idea to prolong. I don't actually.
you testing them.
And again, like, I'm wondering, what else is Trump planning on doing, and can he articulate
Well,
it?
to me, I think it's a great question, and it needs to be fleshed out. I think we should probably play the clip though of Harris from the Chicago Economic Club or the. Oh, do we not have it? Because she didn't show up to talk. So here's
Oh
what
my
I think.
gosh.
He's going to extend the tax cuts. He's going to rein in the federal government and the overburdensome regulatory state, which he can now do because of the Supreme Court. And he's going to take on these countries that screw American workers. That's the plan. And oh,
No,
by the
it
way,
is
he's
not the
going to
plan.
he's going to
It
he's
is
going to
not the
crack down.
plan.
He's going
So like,
He doesn't have a plan to take on this book. What?
so the thing, like the overall thing that I'm like wondering is how are you? It took.
I mean, listen, those shows suck. Like, why?
He
Why
said,
am I listening to Kevin O'Leary?
I've been trying to deal with it for 30 years.
And she's like, oh, I'd slap a tariff on them. So
You've been
anything
doing
comes-
this for
I'm doing
30
business there.
years.
I'm
You've been
doing
doing this for-
business there. They're ripping me off. So let's put a tariff on everything that comes from there. It's like your stuff is coming from there. Your stuff is going to get a tariff, even if it's being ripped off or not.
Like you say, you've been doing this for 30 years and you still not have figured it out.
No.
Something about that don't
guy's
sound
getting
right.
Paid. That guy's getting paid by CNN to give that opinion.
Because
I was-
this is the guy people go in front of to pitch their business ideas to have him invest in their companies. And he can't even explain what a tariff is.
No, I mean, honestly, I just think he's just trying to, you know. I
But
mean,
that's
first
the
of all, he's
whole
getting a paycheck.
problem. That's the whole problem with this. It's like, you know, what you're saying is not true,
Yeah.
but you're still going to say it to get a check. If
Well,
if
yeah,
that's
and
what it
also you
is.
got to be a surrogate. I mean, this is how surrogacy works. He's trying to be a Trump surrogate, and I mean, honestly, we're talking about him. We're mad at him. You know, he's pissing libs off. You know, and it's just like, well, what if we get big and emotional and start yelling about it and call him a moron? People might be like, well, those two guys are being emotional about it, and he's
You
on
know.
Shark Tank.
Well, and that's the thing too. It's just like, I think moving forward, it's like if people go in front of him and like, nah, bro, I saw you explaining what tariffs are. Like, you can't give me business advice. Like, I don't think that.
When it comes to Shark Tank, and this is just a little fun fact, nowadays people just go on and play real hardball unless they get a really great deal. The
Mhm.
exposure on the show itself is enough,
Sure.
you know. So a lot of people are going on driving really hard bargains, and maybe they get it, maybe they don't. And then
That's how it
and
is.
they end
I
up,
mean,
yeah.
even if you have like a really good product, all it takes is just like one viral like TikTok or reel to get your product out there these days.
Yeah,
Like, you know what I mean?
yeah.
Like the days of having to go on a TV show to get in front of an audience to, break into something,
Hmm.
like everybody has one of these, right? Like you create a fire reel or a fire TikTok,
Hmm.
and it, goes viral, you're set.
Sometimes, yeah. Yeah, sometimes. A lot of that happens more than more than I would have guessed.
Yeah.
That
Yo,
girl
there's
who
this
got
girl.
famous.
This girl, she went viral on TikTok because keep in mind, this is 18. She said she started her business when she was like 15, 14 of
Mhm.
like lip oils that like, lip oils that stain your lips or whatever, like a lip staining oil. Went
Yeah,
viral on TikTok and literally just like has been killing it. You know what I mean? Like living that entrepreneur
yeah,
lifestyle, like making all this money before she even graduated high school, like full-time
sure.
entrepreneur, like because she went viral online. So,
Some people hit it big. Not a lot of people, but some people.
yeah.
Never mind. Let's not. Um,
Yo,
I don't know.
um,
I
Donald
guess I would
Trump
just say,
not
go ahead.
oh, go
I
go
want to hear
ahead.
this. No, I want to hear this.
Well, Christy Noem's pick, Homeland Security.
Yeah.
What do you think of that?
People don't know how big the Department of Homeland Security is. It's huge. It's
Yeah.
huge. And that's the one that's going to drive all of the rage these next few years. Like, that's the agency that's going to be the head of the mass deportation thing that's supposed to happen. That's where all of the anger is going to be pointed towards. And what you need is somebody who can handle that and, dance around and misdirect and all this other stuff. And Kristi Noem is going to be like,
Misdirect.
hey, well, no, that's what you need. Like, it's politics, people. You got to have somebody who's good at talking to the media. It's good at talking to, responding to all of these charges, because that's going to be a very emotionally driven pushback, right? And Kristi
Mhm.
Noem is somebody who's like, I shot and killed my dog.
I
And I felt nothing. Is that
I
controversial? Why is that controversial? She's the,
the
it's
the
not, what's
dog
his
was
Joni
pissing me
Ernst.
off, so I shot it, and while I was at it, I took the goat out the game too.
Yeah.
Like,
When somebody hits you with something and you're just gonna give them vitriol right back, it's like there was this like sometimes media gives like the president softball questions. Actually, it happens a lot. There was this like softball question that was given to Trump during the pandemic. This guy, I want to say he was from like NBC, was just like, hey, the American people are scared. What would you say to them? Trump didn't understand that he was setting him up for a softball question where Trump is just supposed to be like, hey, have faith. We're gonna pull through this. Keep your hope up. Trump didn't understand that. He was
Mhm.
just like, you're a terrible supporter. You have fake news and blah 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 blah. And it's just like that was your opportunity to like get some like credit here. And like Kristi Noem, whoever would have been her replacement is gonna have like would have had all these opportunities to like turn a negative into a positive. And she is just gonna go just crazy on that. Full on just shoving it back in your face. She's not gonna see the opportunities to deflect. I hate to say that,
Mhm.
but it's true. That and she's
Mm.
in charge of such a huge department. She's gonna be in charge of such a huge department. A very important one. It's like, all right, okay.
But like I hope we're wrong. I hope we're wrong and people actually
Oh
go in there
yeah.
and like take the job seriously. You know what I'm saying? Because
I
at the
hope
end of
so
the day,
too.
does it
Sure.
matter? Because she's just gonna do what he tells him to do. If the reports of like, he's just installing and rewarding like complete loyalists, and let's
Mhm.
say if he does do Schedule F and it's just, you know, everyone's like wiped clean and installed with, Trump loyalist,
Yeah.
we'll see, like if that then there is no point. Like there's no point to think critically. There's no point to
Yeah.
think outside the box and self-analyze and things like that and take your own executive actions to do the things for the good of XYZ if
For sure.
you're just going to be just a talking head.
I mean, I think even if it is a nightmare, I still think Democrats still need to stick with like progressive populist messaging. They
Mm.
still need to kind of keep taking him seriously on the economic issues. They can't just completely go, see, threats to democracy. See, look, even if he is being it, you still got to offer something to people. And yeah, you might just get, majorities in Congress again, midterms, just because he's ruined everything. That doesn't mean you got better. Do you want to keep on continuing on this cycle? Or do you want to like actually have a message that people are going to consistently vote for? So like learn. Don't just look at the surface of what he's doing. Also, talk about what the alternative economically could be.
Sure. Have you seen the videos of people like whose families have like started canceling Thanksgiving and Christmas because of so and so voted for who and all of this stuff?
No, I haven't, but I'm sure it's happening.
And there's this one guy. I think his name was Angel Rodriguez. He was complaining that who is a Trump supporter, he voted for Trump, and his neighbors across the street did too, and his kids wanted to go play with the kids across the street. And the guy across the street, the dad came out with the pew pew, and did it up in the air and told him to get out of there. And, so he was on TikTok crying that like, they don't want to play with my kids and stuff.
So a white Trump supporter was like shooting a gun in the air.
Shooting a pew pew. That's what we call it online, a pew pew.
Am I not allowed to say it? Are you going to get like the algorithms or something if I say that word?
I don't know. I think everybody's just, yeah.
So what you're saying is white guy Trump supporter pew pewing in the air.
Yeah.
Because
he didn't want the Mexican kids across the street coming and playing with his kids.
But that Mexican and that Latino is a Trump supporter, right?
Yes.
Dang.
So he was like on TikTok crying about it, and people are like restitching that video like, dude, like, I don't know. And the whole thing of, and people say, I don't think politics should get in the way of like your relationships and things like that to an extent. Right? Like, well, I mean, like, let's say like on economic things, or maybe like, oh, I voted for this mayor because she's going to fix the street, but my family hates when, there's construction anywhere and this and that. And but like, there are things like that. But like when you blatantly say a whole bunch of like things that like dehumanize or like put down a whole group of people, you know what I'm saying? Like the incident at Madison Square Garden, the stuff that they, the stuff that they were saying on stage, at some point, it's kind of just like, is this really, you might not like the whole, how do I say this? Let's say that I was a Latino and I voted for Trump. And I have a group of, friends, like let's say white Americans who voted for Trump, and say like, oh, we don't let politics get in the way. But let's say that, I was, what he calls I hate this term, an anchor baby or whatever. And my family or my parents came here, illegally, or they revoked the DACA or whatever. And now I get sent back. I feel like at a point, like when you vote for that, like you're endorsing everything that comes with that.
I don't know, man. I think that after like 8 years of Trump and the media just keeping him constantly in the news, like I think that a lot of people have become desensitized to it.
Yeah.
It's like, he's a funny, they keep calling him a clown. He's just being, but at least he's bringing the jobs back. He can be all weird about that stuff. It's like, I think we're desensitized to him. I think there's plenty of voters out there who are going to regret it. But, there's always that after every cycle. But
I mean, that's also the same thing like with Harris. It's like, he could say and do whatever he wanted, but the second she said something that people didn't like, it's, oh, you're supposed to be better than this. You're supposed to be better than this. And it's just like, but it's okay for him to say all the things that he wants to say.
It has actually become okay for Trump to say these things and nobody else because we are so desensitized to him. That's my take. It's my take. It's like people don't even take him seriously when he says this stuff anymore, because he said worse stuff in the past or as worse stuff in the past, and nothing to them, nothing has come to mind. But people forget about kids in cages. I mean, they basically orphaned some kids who cannot find their parents.
Yeah,
they were separated.
There's like a couple thousand kids who they never
kept track of parents again. Yeah. And but people don't think about that. People don't remember that. I even forget that sometimes, to be honest. And people are just thinking like, well, at least he's saying he's going to make America great again. I'm hurting, my budget's hurting, my family's hurting. One person's telling me they're gonna make everything better, and the other person's like trying to tell me civility, democracy's on the ballot. I mean, that's simple. It's an oversimplification, but at this point, I just think that nobody takes the awful things he says seriously anymore, because we've just had wall-to-wall coverage of Donald Trump since 2015.
Mm.
You know, and it's like, oh well, he said these terrible things before. And he doesn't mean it. Now that doesn't matter. He said that before. I think that's where we're at with Donald Trump. He's just like this perfect anomaly. You know, there was a really like noticeable amount of people who literally just walked into the ballot box, voted for Trump, and didn't vote for anything else and walked out.
Yeah. I heard about that. Yeah.
Yeah, and these people are not going to be turning out again without Trump on the ballot. They didn't turn out in 2022, but they turned out in 2020 and 2024. Like, how? I don't know. Republicans are going to have to figure out how to fix that one. You got a spooky ghost in the room?
Oh, me? No.
Yeah, you're looking around.
I'm looking at like, okay, so how we did the show in here, I'm looking at that rig and
Yeah.
I'm thinking of like this table would actually make like a good like my brain is always thinking of just like what would look like a good like background. And so
Yeah.
I'm looking at like the top, like having a rig here and lights here. And I'm just thinking I'm just creatively thinking. Like I have an overreactive imagination or overactive
get it.
imagination. No,
I
there's
get
no
it. I
spook,
respect
there's no
that.
spooky ghost.
I mean, I just see you like do something like this, and I'm like, is he seeing something, man? But I tell you, man, I grew up in a Hispanic household. We believe in ghosts. You know what I'm saying? Like, I grew up not understanding what everybody was saying, because it's just like I've never seen any of this stuff you keep talking about. Like, I remember, like when for my wedding, my extended family came. You know, my cousins and stuff like that. I got this one cousin who doesn't believe any of that stuff, and I got these other cousins. They believe in all of it, right? Like, we're talking Santeria. My grandmother did Santeria, right?
What's
Like,
Santeria?
It's like Christian meets like voodooism, like Catholicism meets like voodoo. You know, rituals with like chicken eggs and stuff like that.
Yeah, I don't know
Yeah.
nothing about that. I don't know
Santeria.
nothing about
Look it
that.
up. So anyways,
I'm not
like,
gonna look it up.
Oh, hey,
I'm
man.
not gonna
All
look
right.
it up.
Yeah, no, more power to you. But anyways, so my cousins who believe in all that stuff, one of my cousins was like, "Oh, I saw a ghost in your house," and I was like, "Oh yeah, what do they look?" He's a very heavy set man. He used to live here 60 years ago or something like that. I was like, "Oh, okay, yeah, all right." My house was built in 1980.
Mhm.
Only one person has ever lived here, and it was an old lady. There's never been any heavy set man here. But I mean, I just let him keep going. Just all this other stuff. Me and my cousin Ruth were just like these people. No, we
So-
believe in it, man.
So when I was in Phoenix, we did like this moonlight hike, right?
Yeah.
So we went hiking at like midnight, and this one kid, one of my friends, he was there, and well, I became friends with a good amount of them, and we were like walking. And he started talking about kind of just like what you're talking about, like those superstitions and things like that. And he's like, yeah, there's like this thing of like people like they live in like the desert and they like have no faces. I'm like, why are you bringing that up as we're about to go on a moonlight hike? Like, it was already looking crazy out there with the cactuses, the cacti, like looking tall with like arms. And I'm like,
Man, I mean, I could just keep going. Like, here's a funny thing. Like, it feels like, at least when I was growing up, it felt like every Hispanic household had a haunted room. You know what I'm saying? Because
No.
it was the room that was
I
extra
don't-
cold. It was the room that was extra
Oh.
cold. And then I get up and I grow up and I realize that just had poor insulation.
Yeah.
That room just had poor insulation. I mean, I swear to God, like all of my extended family members, all of my Hispanic family members, my Hispanic friends, always one room is inevitably the haunted room. We call it the cold room because it's like, oh, did you feel the temperature drop? And it's like, yeah, check the windows. I didn't know when I was young.
You're covering
I
up
didn't
the
know
air
to-
seat. You're
I
covering up
didn't
the air
know.
vent.
I didn't
Yeah.
notice. I didn't know to think that like, hey, when's the last time we had the insulation checked? But I just feel like I don't know. I didn't experience the entire Hispanic world, but it just kind of felt like that was a thing. But I don't know. Democrats, learn to talk to Hispanic people. Maybe you shouldn't do this, but maybe like, hey, do you have a cold room? Just like that's the first thing you say to them. No. Don't do that. Don't do that. Sorry.
But I think I don't know what they're gonna do moving forward. I think that if all these illegal migrants are deported, it's gonna worsen the economy. If the tariffs go through, it's gonna worsen the economy. If we get drug into a war in the Middle East, the economy's destroyed. Like,
Yeah. Well, I mean, like Trump believes there's 20 million undocumented immigrants, and I think it's like closer to 8 million. So it's like, is he gonna just deport 12 million people? Just
well, do you
let's
think they
like,
really want to do denaturalization?
I mean, he's got what's that? Oh boy, what's that old boy's name? The one that he can't accept that he's going bald. What's his name? Miller, something Miller.
Stephen Miller?
Stephen Miller. Yeah, okay. Stephen Miller. That's the guy who's like, we're doing denaturalization. We're looking for the people who are naturalized. We're going to denaturalize them. It's like, okay, that's unconstitutional, but fair enough.
This guy's
Don't.
39.
That guy's crazy.
He's
That guy is
39.
crazy.
He looks like he's
Ultimate
in his,
Trump
like,
simp.
50s.
And he's demented. He was one of the original believers, by the way. Like Jeff Sessions. Do you remember the Senator Jeff Sessions became Trump's first attorney general? Like Jeff Sessions was like one of the first early Trump adopters, like one of the first ones. And Stephen Miller was his like intern or deputy or something like that. These two people were like one of the first early Trump adopters. And now he's going to be deputy chief of staff, which is kind of a big deal because he's going to get a certain set of like domestic priorities that are basically just going to be his thing.
Yo, I have a huge question.
Sure.
So there are countries that you cannot get into if you are a convicted felon.
Okay.
Like, how does that work with Donald Trump?
Diplomatic immunity. I mean,
Dang,
it's like
that makes sense.
maybe it's a common misconception. I've never actually looked into it. It's just like you can't prosecute a foreign dignitary in America. And also, it does make me wonder, and this is just off the top of my head, it's just like Fidel Castro came to New York a lot of the time when the CIA was trying to kill him. So it's like, how was he able to come to New York? Yeah, foreign or diplomatic immunity, I guess. I don't know. Maybe the CIA was just like, we can't kill Castro if he's here on.
Well, and the other thing too, it's that like, so what about what do they call it? I'm just blanking out right now. Sorry.
Take your time. Sound it out. Is it a concept? 3 words?
Yes. So it's like where you have, gosh, I feel like I look stupid right now. It's where you
It's fine,
have
man.
access to information, like clearance, security clearance.
Oh, security clearance. There you go. Yeah.
He just gets it being a convicted felon.
Oh yeah, for sure. And then not only okay, listen, there's millions of people who have top secret security clearance. The thing that what you need is a need to know basis. It's like when I was going to West Point, like I had a top secret security clearance. That doesn't mean I could just walk into a Pentagon and read about the aliens. Did I have a need to know? That's like an official thing. It's like, well, no, you don't need to have access to that set of documents. So it's not only is he going to have his top secret security clearance back, he's going to need to know a lot of stuff. So yeah, he's going to get the intelligence briefings again, 100% straightforward. He's going to know everything again. Yeah.
Let me show you this
Sure.
because I thought this was funny.
Uh-oh.
Top level security clearance, right? You have it's as high as it can get.
Yes.
So when you have the top level security clearance, right? You have it's as high as it can get.
Yes.
So when you become vice president officially, when you're sworn in, have you ever found yourself in a situation where you're like, you know what? I'm just curious from a personal level about something like whether it be UFOs or JFK or Jimmy Hoffa or any of these things that we all want to know what happened. Have you taken those steps to look into those things?
I am interested in a number of those subjects.
Yeah. And then did you tell somebody like, hey, I'd like to see whatever files, and then somebody delivers them to you, and you sit there and go, whoa.
I'm not giving you any more than I gave you.
You have the top levels.
Okay, let me tell you how insignificant the vice president is. It kind of blows my mind. It says, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, Truman was his vice president, right? The night that FDR died, right? Truman was just kind of having like, he was playing card games with like a few senators or something like that, right? Middle of the night. He gets a call. I can't remember if he got a call, but anyways, he ends up in a cab. FDR's dead. Nobody knows where the vice president is. They don't have cell phones, right? Nobody knows where he is, even though he's the president. He's just somewhere out there vaguely in DC. Nobody knows where he is. But finally he gets to the White House or something like that, and they're like, "Oh my gosh, where were you?" And he's like, "What's wrong?" Like, so insignificant that they lost the acting president for like 30 minutes to an hour. He was off drinking and smoking, playing a card game late in the middle of the night.
Was that before like the vice president has always had Secret Service protection, right?
Oh, I don't know. Good question. But I just remember it's a famous story that ends with he goes up to Eleanor Roosevelt and he says something like, and this is his like wake up moment. Eleanor Roosevelt says, "Oh, Mrs. First Lady, is there anything I can do for you? Like your husband just died." And she was like, "No, Mr. President, is there anything I can do for you?" And that's when he was like, "Oh," she's like, "Listen, man, you're the one who's having a hard time now. You just became president, and that job sucks." Like,
yeah, the vice president began receiving Secret Service protection in 1951. This change was made by Congress following an attack on President Truman. It wasn't until 1951 that the vice president.
So he was just wandering out in DC in the middle of the night by himself.
And I think this was probably before like the vice president was, representing the US in more like official capacities and stuff like that.
Oh, yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like now it's like the vice president is like going places, doing things on behalf of the president, like not doing meeting with foreign leaders. Like they have like an official like agenda of stuff they got to be doing. Like they can't just sit at home and do nothing all day. Like they have like other responsibilities.
I think that, okay, so Biden's job, since the reason why he got tapped by Obama was because he has such great relationships in the Senate, right? A VP always kind of brings something to the ticket, some kind of thing they're looking for, some kind of advantage. JD Vance, it was Peter Thiel money. Also, he's pretty good with media and that sort of thing, at least new media and stuff. Peter Thiel money, plus Donald Trump's kids liked him, reportedly. Harris was going to pick Tim Walz because it was kind of like throwing a bone to progressives, right? But Tim Walz, like he shut up and he didn't talk about any of his achievements in Minnesota, right? So they do always bring something. Unfortunately, like I kind of feel like I don't really know what exactly was the thing that Harris brought. I think it was because he made certain promises, but I don't know what her strength was, because he's still got a great relationship with U.S. senators, right? So he doesn't need that. I mean, she is a senator, right? It's not like Obama, who needed somebody who was good in the Senate. It's not like Trump, oh, look, I got, billionaire backers and all this other stuff. So I'm actually not quite sure, and I think that when she came in, like he was trying to set her up with some kind of, domestic policies, because I mean, like you're just kind of like, you're on the short list of being the next president when you're the vice president, typically, right? But I mean, making her the border czar, I don't know. It's like, wow, okay, give her the hardest job there is, and if she doesn't succeed, that could really damage her career. It's just like, I don't understand what the thinking was there, making her the border czar.
Yeah.
I mean, long story short, it's like when it comes to vice president, like I still think they're pretty insignificant. I don't think JD Vance is going to play a huge role in the administration. Yeah, he might get a bit of a domestic thing, but look, they've already given border czar to somebody else. You know, I don't know. JD Vance could just literally just be an ornament. Like,
That's the thing. Like,
sorry.
you said you don't know like what he's gonna be. I mean, that's gonna be interesting too. Like, I don't.
I mean, he's supposed to be this anti-war figure, JD Vance, but then oh boy's sticking his administration full of chicken hawks. It's just like, okay, well, where's JD Vance on that one? You know?
Hold on. Let me. What amendment do? What is it? The 25th Amendment?
That does VP.
Does
a lot of things.
Well, where like the cabinet can like vote to instill the
remove
VP.
the president.
Yeah.
They vote to remove the president, and then the vice president becomes it. And then another part of the 25th Amendment is the secession for vice president, right? People actually didn't know like who replaces the vice president until the 25th Amendment, right? Fun little story. But just to make sure that everybody understood what happens, right? They
just had to put in paper. Yeah.
They had to put it in paper. Like some people thought, well, maybe the Senate pro tempore should become the vice president or the Speaker of the House because they're third in line, right? But in the 25th Amendment, they say, okay, the president nominates the VP. The new president who was VP now nominates the new vice president. And then that nominee has to be passed in both the Senate and the House. So, but yeah, his cabinet could come together and vote to remove Trump if they wanted to. It's not going to happen.
Well, somebody was like, you guys are only going to see Trump for a year, and after that, you'd be seeing more and more JD Vance.
I mean, there's always the speculation with these old guys that they're just deteriorating and they just can't make it. And I guess it turned out to be true for Biden. I mean, in the beginning when he was running, it was like, I mean, like I get it, he has better days than not, but then it slowly just kept going and going, and it was just like,
Yeah.
But they're saying the same thing about Trump this time, so I guess we'll see what he's looking like in 4 years.
I don't know. You want to know something interesting?
What's that?
I was watching Brian's live stream, and he was talking about, somebody was like, isn't everyone he's picked so far to be in his cabinet somebody he's insulted at one point in time?
Oh yeah.
Everyone besides Kristi Noem. And I just think that it's gonna be wild. When I was browsing the whole VP thing, of Secret Service protection, it says the VP and their family get Secret Service protection up to 6 months after they leave office, and that could be extended at discretion of the Secretary of Homeland Security.
Wow. I guess I never thought about that. I know presidents get it for life, right?
For life, yeah. But I've always kind of been like worried about like the VP or if they're extremely popular, and I'm like worried about like Harris like staying safe. Like obviously don't want anything to happen to her. But like when we've entered this new age of just like all this political violence, it's one of those things where I'm just like, maybe we need to rethink this and actually like give them some cover.
Man, it's too bad she gave all that money to Oprah. She could have kept it for private security. Did you see they're still fundraising, by the way?
Yeah, aren't they in debt?
Yeah, they're in debt. I mean, of course, that's probably clever accounting going on there because, like, sometimes it just doesn't add up. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
they mess with some numbers. It's kind of like Hollywood when they can do some clever accounting and make even a box office like hit $800 million at the box office still somehow loses money so they can avoid taxes or something like that. I feel like there's some kind of clever thing going on there. But yeah, reportedly they're $20 million in debt and they're hitting people up with fundraising. And they're saying, and this seems really unethical, they're saying that it's to pay for recounts for congressional races. And it's like, wait, you had $1 billion?
Well, and that's the thing too. Like, I wonder where that money was spent. Honestly, she just should have went on a whole bunch of like podcasts and YouTube shows and Twitch streams. And like, I think AOC like really turned the game with this. Like in 2022, when she did the Get Out the Vote stream on Twitch, and it literally became like the top like most viewed like Twitch stream of all time or something like that, if I'm remembering correctly. Because like she just went out, got like, Ilhan Omar on there, and her and like a group of other like Twitch streamers. She said, yeah,
Yeah.
like I literally had, some people like locally who were streamers like come off and like drop things off and like help set things up in my apartment or whatever for like this
Mhm.
stream. And one of the streamers that was on her stream, I guess, is like in Omaha. So she like
Wow.
literally like they coordinated like a huge get out the vote like campaign,
Yeah.
and they had millions of watchers, like viewers,
That
and they
is the
just like
future.
they just played a game on Twitch and just talked about the importance of young people getting involved and
Yeah.
going out to vote and being educated on stuff. And yeah,
I don't think Harris would have won if she did embrace new media. I don't think we're at that point yet, but I mean, at a
you
certain
don't think
point,
so?
like, no, her going. People were saying she should have gone on Joe Rogan. Some of the worst takes after this,
Yeah.
No, I think her going on Joe Rogan would have made a difference. I
Well,
think
and
if she
there's
full on embraced new media, I don't think that would have changed. But the thing is the future is headed that way. The future is heading away from New York Times, CNN, MSNBC, and it's heading to more new grassroots new media like this, podcasting. People, they got to commute to work or they got to sit and do their desk job. They'd like to listen to, I guess, Donald Trump talk for 3 hours. I mean, nobody wants to learn about a politician anymore in just like a 10-minute segment.
yeah.
People want
And
to. Yeah, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, and like, kind of just moving a little bit over to next over like, people were talking about how like if things are not fixed and things are just like if we're like literally like headed off a cliff, and things are just going
Mhm.
downhill with this administration, who is gonna like rein him in? And people were talking about, oh, like on TYT, they were talking about we have two options. First option is like the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia, I think he is.
Okay.
Pretty much like withholding like or breaking apart like a deal. Is it Saudi Arabia? Who's that like really like powerful crown prince who's been like
Bin Salman. Yeah.
yeah,
It's
you know who I'm
the only one I
talking
can
about.
think of. Yeah.
But like, he has that Abraham Accord or deal.
Accords.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the Abraham Accords and like
Yeah.
would threaten to like
Normalization
pull
efforts.
that. And they're like,
Yeah.
so we have like, he could use that for leverage, or he could just be like, you know what, I'll give you 1 point some billion dollars and you just like not let Israel like annex the West Bank and like do everything they want. Like, like highest bidder type thing.
I don't know, man. Like he's
Or
definitely got some favors to return.
or the other option is to hope that like Joe Rogan and like the other podcast bros like, put the brakes on things.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Good luck with that.
I
I mean, like
think
he's already making Joe Rogan look like a fool because he's obviously going for like a war hawk sort of thing, and he's also Joe Rogan's like unity, and Trump's like no, revenge tour. I told everybody this is what I was gonna do. So
I think
congratulations.
that I think the Saudis have the money and the actual like political influence and power. You know what I'm saying? Like,
I mean, we got Miriam Adelson too, man. You got
well,
plenty of I mean, he's
I mean,
I
I
don't
think the overall thing too, it's just like at the end of the day, like too, like if you are this is like your second term, you're on your way out the door, like you have 4 more years, whatever. I feel like the only people who can like truly rein you in on whatever side you are other like super powerful like political figures like in like, in the world.
maybe.
Do you know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Because it's just like, okay, well, we're gonna cut off this deal with the US and like completely torch whatever we have or whatever, or like break this. I don't know.
Yeah.
But you know what I'm saying? I feel like people with true political power can only hold like other people with true political power accountable.
I mean, the thing is typically when a president or a very powerful politician gets to the end and they're about to leave office for the last time, they're thinking about that private sector money.
Mm,
You know what I mean?
yeah.
Obama Netflix deals and Wall
Right.
Street, $100,000, $300,000 speeches and stuff like that. Trump
The
doesn't
book
have that
deals,
though. The
yeah.
book deals and the Netflix deals, he doesn't have that
The
as
podcast deals.
motivation.
I'm surprised he doesn't start like a visual podcast. Like once he gets done, gets picked up by Spotify.
I don't think that. I mean, he'd rather have like a Fox News type of thing. Like he doesn't want
Mm.
to be a host on Fox News. He wants to own Fox News.
Like he
But
wants
like
to have
that,
his own like news like company.
we're with a complete wild card. I do not know what Trump wants after all this. I mean, like, I think he mainly was motivated to run so he can get some revenge and also pardon himself. You know,
Do you think he's gonna do that?
I have no idea.
How wild would that be?
I mean, he'd probably do it on the way out, is my guess, but who knows? Can't predict the future. Justice Department has a policy, a long-standing policy, to not prosecute sitting presidents. So that's why all of these cases the Justice Department had against him are all going to be put on hiatus, and maybe even terminated as soon as his Department of Justice head comes in.
Yeah.
But I don't know, man. I mean, it's anybody's guess the way it's going. I mean, the thing I'm really focused on right now is I hope the Democrats can learn their lesson, but it doesn't look like they are because all of their media surrogates are all trying to blame other people and try to getting them a bunch of, room to breathe away from criticism and stuff like that. But it's just like this is completely your fault, and it's Obama is still huge in the Democratic Party, and if you're a Democrat criticizing Obama, you're gonna get some funny looks. But here's the thing: he massively influenced Joe Biden becoming president after South Carolina. Even though Biden only had one big victory, Obama came in and said, listen, everybody fall in line. Pete Buttigieg, Amy Klobuchar, Beto O'Rourke, you're all following in line and you're falling behind Biden because he had a huge victory in South Carolina. He didn't do well in Iowa, New Hampshire. I think Nevada and South Carolina happened at the same time. I can't really remember. But he wasn't like cleaning up in all four of those early primary and caucus states. He just smashed in South Carolina. And that was, as soon as that happened, Obama puts it all out through the network, fall in line, fall behind Biden, or you're done. And that is why it happened. You had everybody endorsing Biden right after South Carolina. The only person who wasn't doing it was Bernie, who kept going. Obama is the reason why Joe Biden became the nominee. He's the main reason why he became the president. Then after that, and it was the Biden advisors who told him to run again. And then at the end of all of that, even though he was the one who got it to happen, Biden and Pelosi and everybody behind closed doors are saying he needs to drop after all the primaries, a month away from the convention. He's telling everybody in the circle Biden needs to drop out. And we need to do a mini primary. Him and Pelosi. Oh, and that's the very interesting thing. I'll make this quick. The fallout has been very telling. I understand why Pelosi could criticize Biden. I get that, but then she's also criticizing Harris. Very interesting. And then you go back to the speculation. When Biden dropped out, he dropped a tweet that didn't say anything. It was a letter that didn't say anything about Harris. And then about 15, 20 minutes later, he drops another tweet saying he endorses Harris. She's the nominee. All of his delegates should vote for her. There were a lot of speculation at the time that people like Pelosi and Obama really wanted a mini primary, right, at the convention, which I don't know what they're talking about. They get a contested convention. And by the way, all of those delegates are Biden delegates, right? Okay, so I don't know what happens, but apparently we're going to waste another month not knowing who our nominee is. But to get to the point, it looks like Biden unilaterally ordained her the heir to spite Obama and Pelosi.
Damn.
That's what the speculation was at the time. I didn't know what to think of it, but now that we're on the other side of this and we're seeing Pelosi blame Harris, it's just like, but that doesn't make any sense. She's the one who inherited the mess. She was given almost an impossible task, And, I actually went back on that because I saw the excitement was like started exploding as soon as she was the nominee and stuff. And I thought, well, maybe I was wrong. Maybe she can pull this off. And, I went on a roller coaster and finally on election night, I was just like, I have no idea what's going to happen.
Yeah.
But I mean, she stemmed the bleeding. She saved a bunch of Senate seats. She probably saved a bigger gulf in Congress. It probably would have been a even more bloodbath in the House. But I mean, at the end of the day, it's like the thing that was the nail in the coffin wasn't how Harris was chosen, but it's why she had to be chosen that way. It's because Biden didn't drop out 2 years ago and stick to the pledges that he basically inferred. But hopefully the Democrats learn the initial responses from the corporate surrogates and some of the infighting that's going on openly in the party doesn't look like they're going to learn that lesson. But we'll know by March. We'll know by March if they're going to keep their heads in the sand, or maybe they might try to figure things out. That's when they'll elect the new DNC chair. And
I mean, like the overall thing, just like I saw a headline, it was like, oh, the civil war inside the Democratic Party has started, like about how, like, oh, we didn't go right enough on the border. We didn't go farther right on this. And, there was
dude,
that, I
that's
don't know if
grim. That is grim that's their theory now, is that it was trans issues, wokeism, we weren't tough enough on the border. Democrats will do this thing where they'll try to overcompensate.
Yeah.
And man, you might see a really harsh border deal and a lot of Democrats backing it. But I don't know. I mean, they're making excuses. They're trying to provide cover for the traditional leaders and stuff like that. It's just like, how are you going to scapegoat trans people and pronouns? You suck. Like, your leadership was not good. Your direction was not good. And yeah, we have to say it. It was Pelosi, it was Biden, it was Obama. It wasn't any of the progressives they're trying to blame. So all of these yahoos, these weasels who are getting paid at CNN and MSNBC to like hawk a bunch of BS, like, God, I cannot wait till old media dies. Like, this is crazy. These stupid little panels. You got Kevin O'Leary. No, it's serious. It's like, how can they hawk this stuff? Like, it's clearly Biden's fault, right? Because he didn't drop. Like, why are you going to try to say that we weren't hawkish enough on the border? Why are you going to try to say, well, we've taken this transgender thing too far? I mean, we're seeing Democratic surrogates on CNN, MSNBC, just saying, yeah, it's boys in sports. And it's just like, they're not boys. Are we really going this 180 all of a sudden?
I mean,
it's crazy.
Well, they got a lot of excitement. Like, what do they say? Like, the populist message is like the winning message, right? Like, you got to, talk about kitchen table issues and stuff like that, and things that are just popular. And, I think that Harris had a really good economic plan. As far as like, saying things like, I want to, give first-time homebuyers that $25,000 tax credit. Cool.
Yeah.
I want to give people $6,000 for the first, year of your child's life. All right, cool. But then there were people who were like, well, I'm not a first-time homebuyer. How does this help me? Or I don't have kids. How is this going to help me? And it's kind of just like, then Trump was like, we're gonna put tariffs on China. We're gonna punish them, and everybody's like, yep, that's the way to go. That's what's gonna help me. That's gonna benefit my situation.
I mean, I think a lot of people vote emotionally.
Yeah.
Nobody's there looking at like, the statistics of Business Labor Statistics Department reports. Nobody actually really knew that inflation is technically down, even though they're talking about how it's like record breaking. It's technically not. I'm not about to say everything's fine. Number we're going to talk about, why don't you look at it? It's like 2 to 3% right now. I just think that people go off of feelings, which is not awful. I think that's very valid. And I think when they set themselves in a position, they're going to stay in that position. And that's fine. That just means you got to meet them where they're at. Like one of the first, the other takes is like, oh, people started throwing a fit. And I hate it when this happens, but you see liberals like saying, oh, it was sexism. It was racism, misogyny. It's just like, oh, of course, like gender and race played a role in this election. But it's just like, first of all, you can't tell me how big of a role it played. You're basing that off of a feeling. I'm sure it played a role, but was it like the most significant part of it? And second of all, even if it was, how are you going to convince somebody that they voted the way they did because they were sexist? They're telling you it's economics and border. Maybe they're not telling you the truth. Maybe they've actually got themselves convinced and there was a lot of bias into there. Doesn't matter. Just meet them where they are. You're getting screwed. I mean, the numbers aren't great. Like 80% of Americans barely have any stocks. Like, why are we bragging about the stock markets? You're getting price gouged. Your health care. You don't even have health care. Like something like 80% of Americans they're living paycheck to paycheck and they can't handle a $400 unexpected bill.
Do you know, I remember when that was like in 2017, or 2018 that was $1,000, and then now it went down to 500. Now it's 400.
It's getting there, man. It's getting there. People can't. I mean, it is getting rough, and I don't expect it to get better. I mean, their traditional numbers might get better. That's great, but it's just like
Mhm.
people aren't going to feel better. But isn't this a cyclical problem? It's like the Democrats are only going to get back into power because the other ones sucked and they were in power. I mean, that's kind of one of the reasons why the Republicans are getting back power. It's not because the Republicans got any better. It's just the Democrats weren't able to deliver, at least,
Mhm.
in the way that mattered, I guess. But it's just like we got to break this cycle. It's just like Democrats had the House for like 60 years straight, something like that, after FDR. Like everybody loves to like a lot of Democrats and liberals, they love to lambast Reagan, but it's just like Reagan never had a trifecta. Never. And so we love to always go, oh, deregulation, Reagan's, he's ruined everything. And it's just like, yeah, but it was a bipartisan thing. It's a bipartisan thing.
Damn.
These trifectas were not common, but now,
I'm curious. I mean, he has a trifecta now. Like, dude, you
Yeah,
can't.
and go ahead. Sorry.
Well, the Democrats also had a trifecta too, like in 2020, right? Like,
Yeah.
for 2 years they had a trifecta.
I mean, they got some good legislation passed. They had CHIPS Act, PACT Act, American Rescue Plan.
Mhm.
The infrastructure deal. I mean, there were good things that passed in those first 2 years. I feel like they weren't selling them very well, and then also it really did not hit those numbers that actually do matter. Like we are still feeling worse, but I mean, it's like technically everything was better under Trump, but everything was better under Obama, but everything was better under Bush before the recession. That is, it's just
Well,
it's
that's the
getting
thing. Like,
worse.
didn't Trump just inherit Obama's economy? Like,
Yeah, but I mean, it's just like if you look at a chart of where we're going down, it's like, okay, we're here. This was good. This was a good time. It's like, no, it technically wasn't. It just wasn't as bad as this time. And that's
Yeah.
where we keep going. People might get to the end of the first 2 years and say, it's worse. Well, yeah, it's because it's always been getting worse. And it's just like, I hope the Democrats can actually have something to show for it if they take power. Like, is it
Mhm.
just going to be like we got into power because the Republicans were in charge and everything still sucks? Like, that's the only reason why we're going to get back into power? It's like, why don't we have a real economic message? It's like when Tim Walz got a trifecta in government. He had a 1-seat majority, and I want to say their Senate, but they delivered. They delivered on
Yeah.
so many progressive policies and stuff like that. And it's like his theory of the case was, I've been given a mandate. Sure, it's a very thin mandate, but I'm going to do everything I said I was going to do. And he did. And very popular governor. And unfortunately, I was really excited when they picked him as VP, but then I did not hear anything about his policy successes anymore. I just think that if you're going to get $1 billion, most of it's going to come from a very small group of people and organizations. And those small group of people and organizations don't want to hear you talk about tax increases on them. Here's an amazing fact. Warren Buffett used to say, or he's said before in the past, that if the top 500 billionaires in America paid just what they're supposed to pay in taxes, no loopholes, nobody else would have to pay taxes. Nobody else in America would have to pay income taxes, sales taxes, none of that. If the top 500 billionaires just paid everything that's already on the books now.
Yeah.
So it's like, yeah, nobody wants to talk about closing these loopholes and increasing taxes on wealthy people because that's where you're getting most of your money. So I mean, for a third time, we went back to civility and democracy's on the ballot and bridging divides and stuff, and it's just, come on. I mean, come on.
That was another thing too. Definitely should have talked about kind of just the meal account or school meals and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But I mean, think of the people who are going to be in the White House. Vivek Ramaswamy and Elon Musk are going to be heading the new Department of Government Efficiency.
It's not even going to be a new department. They're just going to call it that.
Well, they said it's going to be a cabinet level position. I don't know. We'll have to look. But I mean, the thing is that People say Musk is an accelerationist. I don't know if you're the one who told me that or somebody else did.
I mean, I was saying that I think that Stein is an accelerationist. I don't know about Musk.
But I mean, like, he was talking about, oh, we can like cut. This is like he was talking. Trump was said this on the campaign trail. This job is going to be to like cut budgets and like stuff like that, and cut where we can save. And Musk
Mhm.
got on like some kind of show or something like that, and he was talking about, oh, we can do like 2 trillion right away out of the budget, the annual budget. And I'm like,
Sure.
how does that make sense? Like, we want to get tax cuts, tariffs,
Uh-huh.
lower the corporate tax. Where's the rest of this money going to come from? Deport migrants or illegal migrants. Where is like the money going to come from? And there was a statistic of that, like in 2022, illegal immigrants paid in like 90 some billion dollars in Social Security
Mm-hmm.
and
Yeah.
Medicaid. And it's like, yo.
I mean, if it wasn't for immigration, our population would be on a decline just like it is in China. And you know what a population decline does to an economy? Not good things. And this is why China is going to be like super, super war hawkish in the future. Is they need to find population elsewhere.
Dang.
I mean, it's the same reason why Putin's not going to stop until he's standing in Kyiv. Probably has a tight fist on Moldova. Probably stops Georgia from joining NATO. The reason why he really wants Ukraine is he needs population and resources because
Dude.
Russia's population is on a decline.
I can't. Look at this.
What's up? Oh, good Lord. They're memeing our government. I mean, how do you look at that and take that seriously? Maybe that's the play. It's just to look extremely goofy so nobody takes you seriously, and then you do this awful stuff.
I am pleased to announce that the great Elon Musk, capital G, working in conjunction with American patriot Vivek Ramaswamy, will lead the Department of Governmental Efficiency, DOGE.
Oh
Is it DOGE or is it Doge? I don't know.
Doge.
Together, these two wonderful Americans will pave the way for my administration to dismantle government bureaucracy, slash excess regulations, cut wasteful expenditures, and restructure federal agencies essential to the Save American movement. This will send shockwaves through the system, and anyone involved in government waste, which is a lot of people, stated Mr. Musk. This is like this is how like press releases are. So like, if you're a reporter and you get a press release like across your desk, this is like what it looks like. They have like statements from they have statements from the people mentioned. So that way when they write like a news article about this, they can like quote people. So yeah,
they're just trying to look so ridiculous that we won't take them seriously, that we'll just laugh at them. And it's just like, in the end, they will do crazy stuff. Because we'll just be like, oh, what a bunch of clowns, and not pay attention. Because how ridiculous is this?
Look at this AI generated image. He is not this slim.
He does not look like that. Yeah. But see, we're focusing on the superficial stuff. It's like, what is this department of, I mean, like, sometimes I get really angry at liberals who think that they're just absolutely owning Trump because he doesn't know how to put his bronzer on like correctly. And they're like, haha, look at this clown. It's just like that clown is running neck and neck with like an actual good person. Maybe we should stop talking about his clown. Maybe that's a distraction. He is a pretty good showman.
Yeah.
I mean, listen, I can blame a lot of people. I'm not blaming Harris. She got put between a rock and a hard place and stuff. And I mean, I said at the beginning, like 3 months to turn it all around. And she did turn it around. It just wasn't enough. She turned it around for all those Senate races and then probably a lot of congressional races. She did turn it around. But I mean, she just had such a narrow lane that she could go through.
Yeah.
She really didn't have. I mean, she would have to pretty much throw her incumbent under the bus. She'd have to like distance herself a lot from Biden. I just feel like, yeah, maybe now looking back, maybe like she would have done that like really, really hardcore. I mean, but she basically needed to just say he was wrong on this, He was wrong on this. He was wrong on Gaza. We need to end that war. Really hard positions to take. And by the way, I kind of have this small thing in my head thinks I don't think she wanted that to happen the way it did, man.
What?
I don't think she wanted to be made the nominee that way. Honestly, I think that
Yeah.
was just Pelosi, Obama, and Biden fighting because, like, up until that happened, like, people were asking her, like, hey, should he drop? Should you be it? I mean, of course she would say no. Like, she's expected to say no. But, like, when I watched those videos, I believed her. I mean, I think she's smart enough to know that it was a pretty far-fetched gamble, you know? And I don't know if she's the type of person who wants to gamble like that because now her career is effectively over. I don't know if she realizes that, by the way.
Do you think it really is?
Oh yeah, she doesn't have a career in federal politics again. I mean, here's the sad thing is, and I really hope I'm wrong, but Democrats will not nominate another woman to be presidential candidate. The first woman to be a president will have to be a Republican. Yeah, I hope I'm wrong, but it's just like,
Why do you say that?
well, because they're gonna tell themselves all of these like self-fulfilling prophecies. Women can't win. Women can't be a Republican. That sort of thing. We did this twice. You know, we tried hard. They were great candidates. They still lost. But I mean, they're not going to look at like the specifics and really consider like, hey, you know, a woman can do this job. A woman
Mhm.
can get it. They're just going to think about how they lost. 2026 is going to be the year of the bland white guy. You know, it is.
Not the bland white guy.
Dude, no, I'm telling you, I don't know anything about what's going on in the future, but I willing to guarantee that 2026 in CD2 we're gonna have a bland white guy running for Congress. We haven't had one in a long time, actually. In CD2.
Whoa, what do you think went wrong? Did you see Kara Eastman's like response?
Oh, Kara Eastman. Okay, I don't care about what Kara Eastman thinks. Kara Eastman took off from Nebraska as soon as she lost the second time.
Damn.
Like, yeah, I agree with a lot of her positions on like how we need to be populist progressives and stuff like that. But no, I don't care what Kara Eastman says. What did she say? Let's hear it. Let's hear it.
Let me sorry. Do you like my AI tracking webcam?
That is pretty cool. I saw one of those once, and I was just like, I was on this video call that had nothing to do with that. I just stopped, and I was like, what is going on?
It's like supposed to have hand gestures, so I'm trying to like you're supposed to do like this and then like push in or out to like zoom in or out, but
Oh, I see.
it's
That's
just not-
cool.
it's not working.
Yeah. So what did Kara Eastman say?
Let me go to her. Looking forward to seeing Jane Club say the same about Vargas. Quote, if you just look at how Biden performed versus Kara did not fit the district, said Nebraska Democratic Party Chairwoman Jane Club, HuffPost, December 2020.
I mean, she wasn't a great candidate. At least her campaign wasn't. Like, I tried volunteering on it, tried to get the inside, see how things were going. Like, sometimes I'll just dip in. You know, I'll do some postcards for a campaign just to kind of just see, well, is this campaign healthy or not? Hers was very disorganized. I mean, she was underpaying a lot of staffers who were very inexperienced. She got what she paid for. And she also pissed everybody in the district off, all the local people. And I mean, she was going to try to be one of those Justice Democrats, and they kind of just pissed the people off. Sometimes it's a good thing, but it didn't work out for her. And then
Someone
she
said,
took off.
I think she
Go ahead.
has a chance since she's been a VP at least. I can dream.
Oh, I hope I'm wrong. Yeah, sure. I would hope I'm wrong that she could somehow do it. But I mean, I think that everybody's going to convince themselves that a woman can't. Like, every Democrat is going to convince themselves that a woman can't do it.
This sounds wild, but do you ever think she would return as a U.S. Senator, or is she done?
It just, I mean, I don't even think she would be interested in that. I mean, maybe she goes and runs for California governor. Maybe.
I could see that.
Yeah.
I could see that. Like,
I mean, and that's something in its own right, you know, but at the same, like, people, I mean, when I saw her concession speeches, Ari, and I hate to say this, but it just kind of seems like she thinks that she's like a resistance leader or something, like the way she spoke. And I could just be reading too much into it, but it didn't occur to me that she if she knew that her career in federal politics was essentially over. Now,
Yo,
of course, like, go ahead.
the most sad thing about that speech was the very end
What do you mean?
when she like and Doug kind of just like waved everyone off and just like just walked off the stage and like and then because it seems like she's
Yeah.
just like it's the imagery of it. You have the seal of the vice president. She's kind of just walking away, kind of just like it's done. Like
hmm
this is the last speech. Like this is the last time you guys are going to see me up here like this. Like it's done. It's a
I
wrap.
kind of expect you to see her in the background at Trump's inauguration. I mean,
But I mean, she's not
from
going to
my point of view.
speak. Like
No, I know. I mean, I just feel bad that we basically burned a woman's career just to get, keep like, what is it? Michigan, Wisconsin, 4 Senate seats. I mean, and then plus an uncountable, like an untold number of House seats as well. Like, I mean, if we lose those 4 seats, like the Senate is gone for decades. But they might actually have a fighting chance at getting it back in 2026, and if not, 2028. But I mean, she turned you around. You went from a 400-seat landslide to, where is it, 95 or something? So,
Why
I mean,
does it
she
seem
really
like
did turn
something?
around.
Why does it seem like something always goes wrong? Like in the Senate, right? So like in 2020, right? They got a 50-50 Senate, and then boom,
It was
2 people
amazing, by
started.
the way. That was not supposed to happen.
Yeah, and then
Yeah.
2 people started acting funny, right?
hmm
Then Fetterman gets in 2022. Then
hmm
he starts acting funny. Like it seems like just people. There's always something that goes wrong to where it's just like, all right, American people, like you got to send more senators. We got to keep getting more, and it's kind of just
hmm
like,
Well, Fetterman, like I think people just like they projected too much onto him. Like he would be like, I never identified as progressive. I think if you look back, like yeah, he had some pretty progressive like positions, but he was never this like fit the mold of a complete progressive.
mm,
He was always going to be a staunch Israeli supporter. So I don't think
yeah.
he's acting up. I mean, he is somebody who would support a lot of populist issues and stuff like that, but I don't think he is in that lane of progressive. But
Oh, dude, something we forgot to talk about.
what's that?
Sotomayor.
Oh God, I hate this. She
Someone
should
said
not
Trump
retire.
2024, baby.
That is
All
true.
right.
That did happen.
He
I
did
will
win.
just say, that when my candidate wins, I'm sure I'm happy in the moment, but then I also take a gulp. Because you're just 2 years away. Remember, Obama had that huge victory in 2008, but 2 years later, one of the greatest turns in the House and Senate in history, and he even said it. I got a shellacking. So like when my candidate wins, I'm like, yeah, okay, cool, but also gulp. I mean, the same thing happened with Biden. It's like you better hope he delivers, at least
They
according
said
to the American
MAGA,
people.
make America great again.
I hope so.
I hope he does.
I really do. I say that with all sincerity.
Da da
You
da.
know,
Yeah.
I'm desperate for it. All right, and I'd love to be wrong, but I don't think it's gonna happen. But yeah,
Sotomayor.
it's okay. All right, she's the best Supreme Court justice on the court. Bar none, like she's better than the other 2 liberals. She really is. If you look at her opinions, she's the real deal. There are many times when the other 2 liberals will have opinions, they'll side with the majority that it's just questionable. She's the best liberal justice on the court. And people are like saying, well, she's got heart problems or she has diabetes. And it's just like, no, this is not how this works. Plus, first of all, you still have to deal with Joe Manchin and Kirsten Sinema.
Mm.
Okay, so she in this world where she just says, "Okay, guys, liberals on internet, I guess I'm gonna listen to y'all because, of course, everybody listens to them." So she steps down, right? She announces she's gonna retire. Who's to say Manchin and Sinema are going back for putting in her replacement? It's not. I mean, I don't think you can bet on that. Because
Yeah.
Sinema and Manchin have been delaying some of those judicial appointments, So
I mean, and people are like saying, what was my train of thought? Like they just
Sotomayor,
don't want to have like a repeat of what happened with RGB or RBG.
I don't care. Like, I'm sorry, this fantasy in which you think Sotomayor retires and they get a replacement in what, like a month, 2 months, not
They
even.
did
It's January
with me.
6th, January 7th.
They did with Amy.
No, Amy was before the election. It wasn't in lame duck session. It was before the election. It was a very quick confirmation. It was like a month, which is
Yeah.
amazingly fast, but it wasn't after the election. Anyways,
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know, man. I think we should just check in every now and then, and we'll know in March if the Democrats are moving in the right direction or not. Hopefully one of these guys.
You think they're gonna learn anything from this?
I think the elite and the corporate wing of the party are determined not to learn anything, and that's why you see all their surrogates out there trying to blame pronouns and wokeness and all this other stuff. When it's like clearly it was the people in charge. You know,
Yeah.
Pelosi, like, where was your wherewithal to like tell him not to run 2 years ago? Why 3 months before the end of the race? Are we supposed to just think you're amazing because you like called it 3 months to go? Like, I don't know. It's just give the progressive wing of the party a chance. You didn't give him a chance in 2016. I know you're going to look at 2020 and say you were right. That victory is very marginal. There's only not even 100,000 votes across 3 states. You know, it's like you gotta really think about it. Did you win these last 3 times? And if you want to give yourself 2020, fine, but you're 1 for 3. You know, stop trying to blame the progressives. Like leftists, and there is a difference. Like leftists on internet really did drag Harris down, but like let the progressives have a chance. Let populism have a chance. And I know they're worried about losing all the money, but you don't need to have all the money if you can convince a bunch of people to work with you or vote for you. Trump is proof of that. You know, I mean, he did not have that much money compared to Harris. He was not his campaign was not as organized as hers in the traditional sense. So
yeah,
I don't know. Maybe we should take on populist progressive issues because apparently even vague conservative populism is better than no policy. Like I don't know. Like I don't know. Learn your lesson. Or maybe Trump makes America great again. I don't know. When was it great? I don't know. When was it last time? If you tell me before the civil rights era, we're getting a little. You know what I'm saying? Maybe 1980. Maybe that's what they would say. When Democrats had the House and Senate. I agree. I don't know.
I think that hopefully things turn around for them, you know, if they really want to start winning seats. I'm just thinking more of our legislature to see like how things kind of play out with that. That's kind of where I'm kind of focusing on now.
I heard an interesting rumor that one of our senators, Elliot Bostar, wants to run for mayor in 2027. Which
mayor of who?
Elliot Bostar wants to run for mayor in Lincoln. That's the rumor inside the party right now, I guess, the local party.
Seriously?
That's what folks are saying today. I mean, that's just chatter, so it's I mean, take it with a grain of salt, but that's what a few people believe right now.
Well, there's also, do you want to talk about who else you were saying that there was chatter of running for city council?
Oh, Kate Bowles. Yeah, I guess. I mean, it's like at this point, like my connections inside local politics pretty much gone. Like the only reason why I'm able to like even tell you the juice is because I'm just eat it. Doesn't matter anymore. I mean, I got some friends who'll tell me some juice and stuff like that, but that's probably it's only gonna last a little bit. Yeah, there's a rumor that Kate Bowles is gonna run again, or gonna run for city council. You know, she's kind of like local political royalty. You know, she was a state senator. She ran for Congress. Her husband is a county commissioner. So, yeah, that's quite a lot of drama because, you know, as you know, we have 3 incumbents, Democratic incumbents who are going to be running. And we actually saw a little bit of, I mean, this was just from observations. We saw a lot of those incumbents like announce before this last cycle was even over And we saw them doing events before this last cycle was even over, like fundraising in-person events and stuff. And it's just very unusual to see Democratic incumbents who are going to be running in May, not November, have events before the November election. And this is my casual observation. I think the reason why it's happening is because these incumbents who want to run again, they want to get ahead of Kate Bowles. But this could all be just rumors, speculation, and nothing to it. But like, yeah, there's a persistent rumor that Kate Bowles wants to run for city council, even though all 3 seats are held by Democrats. So, yeah, I don't know. There's a lot of gossip, in the party. I mean,
We'll
I guess
see.
this is what I get to walk away with.
We'll see how things play out for them.
Yeah, man, and anybody who watches shows like this is the future. Get into new media. I mean, you're not going to be able to learn as much as you can from CBS anymore, CNN. I love legacy media. I love a lot of the stories about, the Washington Post and the New York Times, things they've done in the past. Phenomenal work. It's gone. They got it really is gone. Like one of my favorite stories, it's a sad story. One of my favorite sad stories. The New York Times in around 2004, 2005, they used to have an ombudsman department where if you had a story, you had to take it to them, and they basically were a red team who had to poke holes through your story. And if they poke too many holes, you got to go back to the drawing board, right? An ombudsman department. A lot of these old legacy media places had these, but then it started changing. It was all about clicks. It was all about being the first to break a story. They got rid of that department. Everybody did. And the now is quick, fast, get things out there. Click, get the headlines out there as fast as they can, and we can just retract later. We can print a retraction later in the back part where nobody's ever going to see it.
But that also kind of just, destroys your credibility, because if too many people see it, or if you break a story that's huge and it's, then you got to go back and,
Is it a coincidence that a charismatic politician can come along, call you fake news, and then millions of people believe him? It's because your quality and your integrity dropped because you, at the end of the day, you are a for-profit media company. And profit is not the best, it's first. Whoever gets there first, whoever breaks first. You don't necessarily have to be the best, you have to be first. That's where legacy media basically got driven, and that's their extinction. So it's like, I mean, I really love those legacy medias type, but it's done. Like, it's not happening. Like I said, half the people who were watching the election were watching new media shows like this, streams, Twitch, YouTube. Half. It's unheard of.
Also, everyone, if you're watching, stay tuned. Got some things up the sleeves. I got some ideas in here.
Coming later, right? I'm actually hitting my bedtime. Right?
I know, for sure. Me too. But
there's a lot to talk about. But thanks for having me on. I'll be on again.
We should do just like a regular thing then.
Yeah, maybe like once a week or something like that would be fine. But I mean, I'm going to run out of stuff to say. Like, you're going to stop losing quality. You're going to start losing quality if you just want quantity.
But I mean, things are going to like pick up from here on out. That's the thing about a Trump administration. God. Like, there's always going to be something.
I mean, but that's the difficult thing about following Trump is, like, as soon as you're trying to get on the air to talk about what's the crazy thing he did last, he's already doing another crazy thing. It's just like, that's old news. It's like, he just did this 5 minutes ago. And he's, 5 minutes later, he did this new thing. And it's just like, good Lord. But anyways.
Yeah.
No, I mean, thanks for having me on. I like having these conversations. It's a little bit of therapy. I just hope that a little bit of what I'm saying is kind of helping the progressives out there who are currently battling behind the scenes. Like, I hope people know that's what's going on right now. And that's what you need to push your party towards. And even if you don't like the Democrats, it's like, don't you want them to start acting right at least a little bit? Shouldn't it be about the policies? Shouldn't it be about the issues? Instead of these feel-good narratives that we have to keep on going with, apparently. I would love to see both parties be able to compete with real ideas. Anyways. All right. Well, thanks for having me.
Like always, thanks for coming on. Your background looks good.
Yeah, I'm working on it. Not my thing, but
take this giant thing down. See
Yeah,
this-
man. Well, hey, yeah, election's over. Maybe some of those local electeds would like to have a conversation with you.
Yeah,
You know,
for sure.
Yeah.
I think that would be good too. And I'll tell you some of my ideas kind of off the record.
Sure.
But yeah, dude, this was fun. I mean, we've been going
Yeah.
at it for 2.5 hours.
My wife's
Time
not gonna be happy.
flew by.
Yeah. No, I mean, you get me talking. I'll keep talking until either you get tired of it or I say something
Yeah.
really stupid. Really stupid.
No, it's cool. All right, y'all. If you're still with us, thank you so much for watching this episode of this Tuesday Night Live. We'll see you in the next one. Thanks again for coming on, Tommy.
Have a good one.